Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
SYNCTANK.
Well, here we are. Welcome to a SYNCTANK episode. How's it all going, guys?
Good.
So,
Real
Alex,
good.
you were saying that it's been 237,000 hours in between. What was it?
If you read me my recent tweet, this guy that just died, Angus Cloud, the rapper, or not a actor, he's not a rapper.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the show Euphoria, just died, 25 years old. And, you know, I've been thinking a lot about Elon Musk lately, like everybody else, and doing stuff with his birthday and intervals and all that. And I was just like, I saw that story. I was like, well, let me just check this. And the first thing I do is his birthday to the guy, to the guy Angus Cloud was born. And it was exactly 237,000 hours, which is something I see a lot, 237,000 hours. But, it was just crazy. And then if you keep going now, and there's like even more like weird stuff. If you expand the whole thread, the second one, I got his life's midpoint. This Angus Cloud's midpoint is 2011. So, and I just happened to sort of remember that Aleister Crowley's midpoint was 11/6/1911. So 11/6/11. So there's like this weird 9/11 stuff going on, and they both have the same initials, AC, Angus Cloud, Aleister Crowley. And Euphoria, I look up the gematria for that, which I don't normally do, but I did there, and hey, it's 93. And then I looked up his midpoint, January 19th, 2011, and there's not a whole lot, that came up like in terms of news, but there's always an astronomy picture of the day from NASA, and on that day it was Saturn. This big picture of Saturn, storm clouds on Saturn, as in Angus Cloud, and Saturn also equals 93 in ordinal regular gematria. It's not one of the 1,000 other ciphers. It's just regular ass 1, 2, 3, 4 to 26, and they both are equal 93. So I just thought that was a pretty crazy sync storm between Elon Musk.
I would like to add, nothing numerologically, but I just made a post about suspicious patterns because if you remember Mac, the rapper Mac Miller.
Yeah, I was going to look that up.
Died, Angus Cloud was supposed to play him, but he turned it down.
Oh, well, yeah. Mac Miller died. I remember this because it was exactly 999 weeks after Eyes Wide Shut came out. Because I had been anticipating that date back in 2018, September 7th, 2018, and because Eyes Wide Shut actually released 991 weeks after The Shining. So there's this long, huge structure going on. And
the U.S. release,
the premiere.
The premiere.
Yeah, okay. The premiere. So that was that day, and I didn't know who Mac Miller was at the time, but I figured that out recently. So I was going to actually check between those two death dates, but I forgot. So
we got to investigate Drake because he's associated with both of them. and Drake discovered Angus Cloud. You know, he's the one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is there like a wheelchair? Is there like a hanged man, a crippled man analogy or something like that for like a tarot card? Like, because he was in Degrassi. Like, is there anything with that? I don't know.
Well, they haven't said how he died, so I don't know.
He doesn't die in Degrassi, right? Or does he?
Well, I'm talking about Angus Cloud. I don't know what
I'm
happened.
sorry.
Like,
I was
he
thinking
posed
of the whole
like a fentanyl
Degrassi
thing.
thing there. I was just like, well, come on.
Oh,
Wasn't Star Fox named like Fox McCloud?
yeah.
Okay, sorry. It just popped in there.
Dude, I was thinking recently about the Duncan McLeod
666.
and the Highlanders.
That's why I was saying it. I'm like, you got the 666 in the cloud right there. So F is the
Sure.
6th letter of the alphabet. O is the 15th.
And
X is the
star.
24th.
Crowley
if
and
you
the
go to-
star. Every man
if you
is
go
a
to
star.
X.com, right? You'll see some of the X's that are posting that people are re-Xing now.
Well, the thing that just broke, I don't know, just is that the lieutenant governor of New York just dropped dead.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh,
Sheila Oliver.
I just wanted to like show that
She died suddenly.
Yep.
UFox
Suddenly.
is popping up now. UFox is the new like UFO Twitter, so it's UFox. So the Fox is definitely making its circuit again. But who is it that died? The lieutenant governor of New York?
Yeah, she was in office and just died. They just announced it like a couple hours ago.
Brutal.
It's pretty weird. I mean,
She's
it's not
71.
that weird. We
It
know
can
why,
happen,
but
pretty
Mhm.
bad. But yeah, okay. Someone, I think it was Luke Rude Boy Rudkowski, posted a picture of some like salesman meme saying, "Yep, you can get rid of a lot of prosecutors with this one," on a picture of Biden, and like what's been going on, just like the amount of people that have just been removed from the infrastructure recently. Not
was Pee Wee 71 years old? Or
yeah, I was gonna
70?
say not that this is related. but,
Pee Wee,
like,
yeah.
come on,
He's
Paul
supposed to
Rubin's
turn
dead.
71.
Paul
he's
Rubin's
mi-
dead.
He's just a
Paul
month
is dead.
short of 71. Yeah.
Paul is dead. I feel like that's really what we're missing here. Like the sync is
Right.
finally true, And
It was always true.
And remember, let's not
Yeah,
forget,
okay.
like, what is Pee Wee's Playhouse about? Like, because it's about childish men, but that AKA Hollywood people. Like most people, you could show this to a child, and a child would understand it if they were like a Midwestern or they're human. But by the time they get to the adult age, usually they've progressed past that, unless they're from Hollywood or from some place in LA, or something in this kind of weird Hunter Biden world, I think. And then, so what is it that they find? Where's that picture? Dude, the basements. It's always about the basements, right? The basement.
The Alamo basement.
Yeah.
I was like, my band in high school, my crappy emo band was called the Alamo Basement.
Yeah.
Pizza at the Alamo basement.
I'm just curious, does everyone believe that Pee Wee is actually dead?
Yeah.
Paul Rubens or Pee Wee?
I'd like to
Well,
believe
Paul
he's
Rubens.
making love to like one of the taxi fit. What's the deal, David? Isn't there like a thing?
Oh, well, I have a Paul Rubens story. I had a weird interaction with Paul Rubens. So, like, can I share it? I'll share
Please
my story.
do,
I've
yeah.
shared it on Always Record, I think, like, right after it happened, thereabouts. But no, I drove a cab for, like, I think a total of 6 years. And one night, it was the night of the premiere of The Tripper. And The Tripper was filmed in Santa Cruz. It's a David Arquette film. And so I saw David Arquette and I saw Paul Rubens at Callahan's, a bar in Santa Cruz, earlier in the night, but they had like a swarm of people around them, and I wasn't, and I was working. I was just picking people up from there over and over again. Anyway, around 3 a.m., I get a call to go to the Hilton on Mount Herman Road in Scotts Valley, still Santa Cruz County, and I drive out there, and this like, I don't know, is it bellhop? The guy working at the hotel comes and like inspects around the vehicle and just like doesn't say a word to me. He just like looks in, he's looking around. I'm like, well, that was kind of weird. And then Pee Wee comes out, and I roll down my window, and he like leans into the window, and he was so coked out, his eyes were bugging. I tweeted this recently. I'm kind of restating it verbatim, but his eyes were like bugging out of his head, and he looked like he was like waiting for me to say something, anything. And I just.
You need to say the word of the day, man.
Yeah, or anything. Mecca Lecca Hi, Mecca Heiny Ho is like, I had it. It popped in my head, but I didn't say it. I was just, and I've been driving for so long, and it was like, And I was just chide out, and I just we just stared at each other for like over a minute. It could have been two. It was like a long stare, and I just felt like it wasn't
gone a different way. Really, it's going on Kevin Spacey really quick. I'm glad.
Right. It didn't feel awkward to me. It was just like he was looked like he was like, you're gonna say that, but it was probably the coke and whatever was going on. We just stared at each other, and then his friend comes out, and I'm driving his friend around, and then I realized what was happening. Like it wasn't just that it was a celebrity thing. I think it was because of the nature of what was going on. I think that they were just making sure that I wasn't going to be some bigot asshole or something to him or whatever. So I'm driving him along, and he keeps on making these like innuendo type comments that felt like very like, I'm like, wow, is he? And I've thought a couple times, I was like, is he saying what I think he's saying? But it wasn't quite clear. And he knew he parked at a Safeway, but he didn't know which one. So I was like driving him to all these to 3 different Safeways. Ended up being on the west side. I got him to his car, and right after he pays me and gives me a big old tip, he turns around and he looked like he just had to say, well, he was so excited he couldn't hold it back, and he just said, I just had anal sex with Pee Wee Herman. He didn't say Paul Rubens. He said Pee Wee Herman, like that was his fantasy or whatever. And I just like congratulated him. I was like, that's awesome, man. Like he was so stoked. And then I went on to see him in the Netflix Pee-wee's Big Adventure sequel, not Big Top Pee-wee, the Netflix one. And he ended up doing a bunch of social media stuff with Pee-wee for like his birthday and different things. And so so I saw them the night that they met, and then I know that they continued to be close, and so I don't know the particulars around their personal lives and what all that translates to, but that's the gist. And it was funny because it was
romance.
I didn't put together myself. It was years later. I told this to my friend Kiyoshi, and he was like, dude, that was Mount Herman Road. Think about that. And I was like, oh shit, you're right.
Wow.
I got a story too. Pee-wee, he graduated from my school. He was in the theater department at Cal Arts, and I just saw him during his 20th reunion. That was 1993 sync there. So he graduated. He got his BFA in 1973.
He did graduate. I had under the impression he was kicked out of Cal Arts. He made it through.
I don't know, but yeah, just
maybe an honorary degree after they're like, all right, you're cool. We're sorry.
Yeah. So he came and visited with a bunch of the old school, and so we heard P-Man was on campus, so we just rushed towards the celebration area, and we saw him. So we started shaking his hands. Hey, Pee-wee. And then I shook his hand, and then somebody else, I forgot which classmate right after me, shook his hand and said, "Is that the hand?" Basically, is that the one that you
Nice.
shook in the
Nice.
theater? You jerk yourself off.
I like
got a
that.
bad rap
David
for that.
Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff was his roommate, so that's what's also pretty crazy, right?
Yeah,
I mean, how close these people are.
Yeah, I actually got them mixed up. I thought he was roommate with Danny Elfman, but they were all in the same class. Danny Elfman, Tim Burton, and him, and David Hasselhoff, and they were maybe not the exact same year, but they were all there together. So
yeah, that's pretty wild.
Picture.
That's like Vienna in 1917. Cal Arts was crazy. I mean, Tim Burton, it's all there. It's pretty weird.
Yeah, it's a party school.
So what do you think about Walt Disney under Cal Arts? You like the idea? The big urban legend that all the students love is that it's the Disney school that has Walt Disney Frozen.
I was actually hunting for it. We were doing, because the school is haunted. There is actually for sure that tons of witnesses already know that there's a dead girl who fell to her death in the 70s. She was in the theater school. She fell off the catwalk, to do the light fixtures. It's called a modular theater. The modular theater is a theater where they have like these hydraulic platforms, so they can make like any kind of landscape for the theatrical performances. So she was fixing the light, and somehow she slipped and fell and like fell on her, basically broke her neck, and it was like a 30 feet fall. It was a long fall. so people have been seeing her inside the theater at night. So we were doing a ghost hunting there, but at the same time, we were also hunting for, the cryogenic chamber, whatever the facility is. We've been hearing that it's hiding somewhere in the sub level. The sub level is like the chaotic area of CalArts. Where
I wanted to
below the
bring
first
up
floor.
something because someone was
Yeah.
saying, didn't Paul Rubin get charged for child pornography? And what happened
Mhm.
was two things. One was he was arrested after he made some pretty surreptitious remarks about the Illuminati or about the eccentric elite of Hollywood, more specifically. And then he was not doing his show. He was in Florida, and they arrested him in a porn theater. Years later, they did raid his house in 2002. And all charges were dropped because obviously it wasn't true. But they were also trying to discredit him several times over because he was always doing. Paul Rubens did a bunch of things that weren't really status quo. I mean, he was in Blow and a lot of his early stuff like Mork and Mindy. You know, he was playing kind of fun of the immaturity of a lot of the wealthy producers. You know,
Wasn't he Barbie in Below? Was that the one where he played Barbie? Like his name was Barbie.
Barbie is a girlfriend of Johnny Depp.
He was the hair person. He was like Derek for real. I remember this because sometimes I'll be like, "How for real, Derek for real?" Like,
Yeah.
but he was.
I feel like that
he
was
was
his
the hair
name
guy.
in something.
Oh well, he's been calling Johnny Depp's girlfriend, the flight attendant in the movie. He's been calling her Barbie all the time in the film.
Is that what it is? Am I
Yeah.
just connecting two things together? Yeah, I think I am.
She
Yeah.
looks like.
Oh yeah, you're right. He calls her Barbie. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's been a while.
But there's a little sync there.
Yeah, there's something.
Right.
What about the magical case? I know Eddie, you saw this thing. There's this. We talk about wizards and magical secret
it's much to
societies.
debate. Yeah, you can scroll. You just keep scrolling. You'll
Well,
see
I mean,
it,
you can. But first off, just for like general perspective, it starts out red, it becomes green. It become green. Here's the video. Is this the video?
This is nothing new. This was back in 2020, but nobody really talked about it. But
it's a critical year for tackling.
Let's just turn that down. Need to hear her. And then wait, up next. And then wait, let's goes behind the thing. Little hand switcheroo probably, but no, boom, green. I think that's probably not a magic. It's probably a magic trick in the same way most magic tricks are done, like with nothing in my right hand. It's in my left hand. It seems like, we can watch
that's
it
how
again.
they fix the budget. They just change the books.
Here he goes behind the car. They do a little handoff. Thank you, and gone. Magic.
That's like a shining continuity error in real life.
Right?
It kind of reminds me of Alan Greenspan. Remember Alan Greenspan, the Federal Reserve Chairman?
I thought his name was Alan Redspan. No.
If you wanted to convince me that they snuck messages in the media, that would definitely be one. It would be like, if you ever see it go from red to green at this exact time, you know what I mean? Then that this means something. Because it just went red to green.
Sell, buy,
something, whatever it is.
Gosh.
Well, it's something Kabbalah. I would definitely think it's a.
And if it's legit compartmentalized too, like from military experience, it's just like, I'm just the guy that presses this button when I see that thing. Like, I saw the green folder, so I pressed the green button.
Right.
That's as much as you
know.
Or
I just I go to Moscow instead of to East Germany. It could be so simple. Right. It could be like so many things. Everyone turns on the TV and then they get their message. It could be a lot.
Yeah, but you can scroll down to where he the Pee-wee Playhouse had that floor. If you remember that,
right? How far up is that?
The
there
sigil.
You go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I had this earlier up.
So it's much to debate, but I mean,
777 and all these kind of like broken vril lightning bolts.
It's 6 7s, right?
The Star of Babylon, right? And that's he's definitely got a lot of 93 syncs going on, so if you look at it, counting that one's got 6 7s in the circle. So in
6 times 7, 42.
Does it? I can't see the full bottom there, so I'm not sure if it's got 7 7s or something.
Yeah. He's wearing that.
You guys don't understand. Like this raised me. This TV show.
I think there's 7 7s. Are we sure there's not 7 7s? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it's 7.
It is? Oh, okay. Then it works. Then it is the
even more
It
more
worked.
so.
It was
Yeah.
broken before.
Yeah,
They just did it that way for their own protection.
that's pretty based. Yeah, I mean, I always felt like Pee Wee's Playhouse was pretty thelemic. You know, it's got that vibe to it.
Yeah.
Love is the law of Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Yeah, and what is that? What is that magical phrase that you guys just using earlier? The
Mecca
tiny
like a
hoe?
high,
Like
Mecca
a
high
high.
ho. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's got Morpheus. I forget what's that actor's name. The guy from The Matrix. He showed up as a
Lawrence
cowboy.
Lauren Fishburne. Yeah,
Mhm.
Which, not to be
He was the
confused
mailman.
with was
His
it Hasselhoff?
Cowboy. What's his name? Cowboy.
With Chakalaka. What
No,
is it?
I don't know if we've have any experts here, but I've heard that the Mechaleka High saying is actually in reverse, and it's like a magical incantation to
It's
bring
probably Ooga Chaka
you're
backwards.
into something, or
It's,
That's right up there with Oobla Dee Blah Da, right?
I'm pretty sure
it's
Ooga Chaka is in it as
abracadabra.
well.
Yeah, abracadabra.
Something about that stuff. What do you think about the Witch Doctor song? You know, that's what made the Chipmunks famous, right? Witch Doctor. Ooh, ee, ooh,
Oh
ah,
yeah!
something, walla, walla,
Wow,
bing,
you're
bang.
taking me back, man.
Well, because
Jesus
because the thing about the Chipmunks, which is weird, is it was actually, what was it, like David Sullivan or whatever, it was actually like, he was Ross Bagdasarian. He was an Armenian in Hollywood. He wrote a bunch of music, wasn't famous, sped up the record. All of a sudden, people loved it, right? Like, he started out by trying to write legitimate pop music, and it was the Witch Doctor that really did it, you know?
Mm-hmm. So the way I remembered when I was a kid, or when I was a teenager, whatever it was, hearing the story of what had happened with Pee Wee, and I remember seeing the photo, his like mugshot photo, and you're like, that's Pee Wee, and the way I heard the story was like this really like he was in the way they pitched it, and I found out years later that this was completely wrong, but was that he had like a trench coat and he like was in some theater and he like opened up the coat and was like, whoa. But
Clapping like
I
Batman's
think what it
wings,
was,
yeah.
and correct me if I'm wrong, it says this was a jerk off theater. They were pretty common. You've seen Taxi Driver, and he was just there. So
Before
it wasn't.
VHS
I don't think it was that
big.
he would like win in the lobby and was just like flipping it around and being like.
No, I think it's because they're technically allowed to have those theaters because of my free speech. But what they can do is they can just like randomly bust in there and be like, "Aha, gotcha."
Mhm.
So,
But
like, now
also,
they're
it was literally
penalizing
they
that way.
wanted to get Pee Wee Herman in trouble. I think that it's not hard to lure somebody into a
Yep.
drunken state in Florida, and
Oh,
then
it
this
just-
is before they had Florida Man. Is the other thing. You know why they say Florida Man? Because they don't want to have to say the name of the person, the citizen who's being arrested.
Right. There's also just like that people will just do their business as usual, and meanwhile, like a million heads in Hollywood and wherever are all doing kind of the same stuff, give or take, generally speaking. But then, if they want to make an example out of someone or whatever, it's like they'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's funny because like 2 years after this or less, like all of a sudden hotel rooms come with cable access pornography and everything is different. So it's weird because they tried to make it seem like he was this horrible guy, but again, it's because Pee Wee Herman went from being an ironic mocking of society to legitimized as child art. It was children's entertainment.
So was it Tim Burton? Was that his vision of Pee Wee, and he just was like Paul Rubens was casted and he just made the character, or was this a Paul Rubens character that was kind of brought to Tim Burton and he was like, yeah, this is what I want?
That way around.
The TV came first. The show came first, then the movie.
No, Pee Wee started out as doing stand-up. He actually was a stand-up character. You can find a bunch of stuff of him.
It was like adult oriented originally, right?
But I guess what I'm asking is like when he did his stand-up, was he wearing this gray suit with the red bow tie?
Yeah.
Like was that his shtick? He was. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to find pictures of it, but what he would do is he'd go up on stage. It's really funny if you can find some of the videos of him, but it's like basically like he was a autistic kid. So he'd be like, "Stop laughing at me," and he'd get annoyed and frightened at noises, and then he'd laugh like "ha ha ha" and like make fun of his own jokes, and kind of it became kind of this character. And it was also at that time New Wave and all that was happening. The Talking Heads.
Excuse my ignorance, but was he the voice in Flight of the Navigator of the ship, or was that somebody who just sounded like him?
That is him, I'm pretty sure.
That's
Yeah.
him. Okay.
Yeah. And then Paul Rubens, Mork, Mindy, I think is like one of it. So the first thing he does is he's on Mork and Mindy.
Oh, that's right.
He's on
I forgot
he's
about
on a
that.
celebrity, like, so it's like the high school reunion of Mindy, and he's the high school friend or nerd or something like that. And then after that, he goes like somebody buys his character, and I don't know if it's Tim Burton who initially does it, because he does several. I think Phil Hartman's the one who helps him like kind of build the show originally.
Can I just?
He was in Batman Returns. I forgot. He's the father of Penguin, who's Oswald Cobblepot.
Oh,
So.
right.
Yeah.
Wait. So, okay. I just
Also,
want to point out one more time that Pee-wee's Big Adventure, like Groundhog Day, uses the 22 Terror Arcana to tell its story. So,
Yeah.
like the different trials or tribulations that Pee-wee goes through in that particular movie are in order of the Arcana. And if the actual original script for Pee-wee's Big Adventure, when he goes to the psychic with the crystal ball, she actually lays out Terror Arcana. And that was removed from the final version, which is also true for Groundhog Day. He goes to a psychic and gets a tarot reading. And actually, with Groundhog Day, he keeps throughout the movie, he keeps repeating through the hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell called it, where you go through those 22 Arcana. Whereas Pee-wee's Big Adventure, it's spread out throughout the whole movie. It's not going in like a cycle. It's like the whole thing. But anyway, yeah, a lot of people don't know that. It makes sense as a device, to just come up with the structure of a good story. It's because tarot tells a story, and so I don't think it's as like witchy as it is just like, here's something that you can use to kind of.
But then do they have some, like, doesn't someone read his fortune in Pee-wee's Playhouse, like at this carnival or something? It's like a thing, right?
Pee-wee's Playhouse? You talking about Big Top Pee-wee? Talking about Big Top Pee-wee?
I forget which one it is.
Oh,
where,
man.
like, fortune.
I was trying to think about
Big
Marge.
Right. Well, there's a
He's
psychic.
got a fortune teller. There's definitely a thing where they read tarot. I
He
forget
goes.
where it is, but I've
He
seen
goes
that in
to
the
a
episodes.
fortune teller, but I don't believe that they actually use the Arcana
Pee-wee's
in
horoscope.
the final version of the movie. But there could be a fortune teller in Big Top Pee-wee, and I just don't remember it because
Yeah,
been
I
a
think it
while.
happens at some point.
One of my favorite parts of Pee-wee too was this concept of like a Rube Goldberg machine, which is kind of like this ongoing trope. But he had one of the most fascinating ones of it, and I've always seen Rube Goldberg machines as kind of like memory palaces. Maybe like kids kind of start on them before realizing what they are. But for someone that actually sits down and like thinks of one of these and makes it out, like this is kind of like the beginner's version of a memory palace.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Andreas, actually, there's a psychic scene with Madame Ruby. Which movie is that? I mean, actually, I just put the YouTube link there in the mail.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
That's what we're talking about. So I'm just saying that this
She-
scene was changed from the original.
She doesn't pull out cards.
conception.
I remember her pulling out cards. Really? There's no cards?
I don't think so. Unless
Weird.
if you read the original script. I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
this came from Alan Green, by the way. So Alan Green
Not
was
Alan
seeing
Red.
yeah. Alan Abadessa Green was looking at Groundhog Day and Pee-wee's Big Adventure and noticed this how the layout of the film actually corresponds, and then he found the original scripts of both, and I guess both included that. If I recall correctly, he might correct me if he heard me talking and be like, actually, blah blah. But that's how I remember it.
I gotta say something. Somebody earlier in the chat had asked me to elaborate on how 237,000 hours comes up often for me, and I wasn't sure how to relate that to Pee-wee, but I just did. So Kubrick was born July 26. It's kind of like a before Kubrick, after Kubrick thing with that date. So I always do lots of intervals, and I learned a long time ago that exactly 7,000 hours after Kubrick's birth was August 8th, 1955. And when you go look on the history of that day, you learn that Fidel Castro's Cuban Revolution basically began on that day, and they called that the July 26th movement. so Kubrick born July 26. Obviously, Castro his revolution is born on July 26. So anyway, that always amazed me. There's a lot more to it, but I always know that August 8th and 9th of any given year comes 237,000 hours after July 26, which is Kubrick's birthday, and as well as a whole bunch of other people like Kevin Spacey and Helen Mirren and all the total bunch of people. So anyway, so I was going to say you often see really big things happen on August 8th, August 9th. The Manson murders, for one thing. What else? Nixon resigned. Or announced, he announced his resignation that day in 1974. And there's more, but my memory is going to fail. But anyway, so I just went and looked up Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and it was released on August 9th of 1985. So that's just a weird thing.
Yeah, dig it.
And that would be 237,000 hours after Kubrick's 14th birthday.
Okay, see, Alex, this is the thing: is that you're talking to me yesterday on Twitter about Kenneth Grant, and your standard, your own, no, not at all. Because I've read Kenneth Grant, I've enjoyed it, and so and I don't feel like when I talk about him, I'm talking like Sitchin. It might sound the same, but it's like no. I mean, they both have their entertainment qualities, but I would, but anyway. You have a certain standard of your gematria and when you're working with your numerology, and I don't see the same standard from Grant. So basically, what I'm telling you, Alex, is I think you're better than that.
Well, I accept that. I will accept that. Yeah, I was just
also
reading
all the Sumerian calendar and a lot of the calendars have to do. I mean, everything has to do with this idea of cycles and picking a thing, and then from there having a thing, you try to find another thing like it, and everything in between it. Trying to find a cycle. So it's the only way to build is you have to, or to even measure, is to measure outwards from in. So you have to pick a starting point. So it could have been a different starting point than Kubrick. You could have found other patterns. And he's doing that. As soon as you found this pattern, then you find the next birthdays that are around it that are cycled to other things. It's these patterns emerge because of all kinds of reasons. The knowable truth is not the eternal truth, right?
All right. I have a question for Jay in the comments where he says August 8th is called the Lionsgate Portal, just a by the way. And thank you for answering the question, Alex. Jay, why is that? How? I'm interested. Lionsgate Portal sounds
Leo, maybe has something to do with Leo because that's the sign it's under.
The Lionsgate Portal occurs when the fixed star Sirius, Earth, and the Orion constellation are all aligned in the sky. The reason it's called the Lionsgate Portal is because it happens during Leo season. Nariana says it's a time of the year when the magical vitality of the sun, the natural ruler of the zodiac sign Leo, is at an all-time high.
That's interesting because I was talking to you about how I looked to the Ninth Arch by Kenneth Grant to kind of give some answers for the Ninth Gate, which I didn't find, but I found elsewhere. And it's funny because Ninth Gate is actually produced by Lionsgate. So it's nice. Lionsgate, Ninth Gate. I think it has everything to do with the pathway of strength between Chesed and Gevurah, which traditionally pictured the lion and is associated with Leo, which Crowley made into lust with the Scarlet Woman and the Beast. It's a significant pathway because it's the 9th pathway from above that belongs to the lower worlds, but for the 13 pathways that belong to the terrestrial. So it's, there's a whole thing there. Also, the Israel thing, like looking at the gematria of Israel, is the effect of when you take the 6-pointed star on the dollar bill that's composed of 13 stars, and if you keep doing that same formation around it, if you continue with it and you do it 9 times, you end up with, I believe it's 541, which is the gematria of Israel. So there's a whole crazy thing there. And I think that relates to the 9 pathways to the upper worlds. But
I've got a question for you, gematria nerds, a little bit, because like I'm a baby in this space. So if you've got 16 different ciphers, there's a whole bunch of different. Let's say you got 16 ciphers. Is there validity in looking at like the value of a certain phrase in one cipher and then matching that value to a different phrase in a different cipher, or do you always have to keep it within the same cipher for the connections to matter?
That's a really good question. I'm not a gematria person. To be quite honest,
I've generally been like, just because of the nature of my studies, is I just lean towards Hebrew gematria big time. Like I just want to know Hebrew gematria. But then there's examples of things.
The thing you got to do, I've really learned from cryptocubrology is that and I get really frustrated when I see everybody on all these accounts on Twitter, these gematria accounts, where it's just, I'm sorry, but it's all so incoherent.
Right.
And there's you could go in Gematrinator, you can get like 15 different ciphers, you can find 18 different numbers for anything, and
that's how you can
so
fudge
you
it.
really have to limit yourself to a system,
Right.
and work within the boundaries of the delimited play area, for it to really
because there's
be
enough
coherent.
there anyway. If you want to
Well-
make something work, you can, and that's the issue that I had with Kenneth Grant.
Well,
Not just it's like,
I want to say, I was just reading his book, and reading the gematria. I know exactly what you mean. I started trying to reproduce it myself with Gematrinator or whatever. I didn't have a pure Hebrew one, but like I couldn't do any. I mean, I had no fucking clue. And what I kind of wanted to say was like I've read these books and I've never actually once checked the gematria, and I never really wanted to.
yeah,
But I just sort of
Yeah,
assumed
I
that
did
he's
all the
got
way
some
through.
kind of internal consistency, because I almost read him like it's fiction. It's like it's a weird thing.
There's a difference with researchers. There's people that will make genuine mistakes, and you can see how they made the mistake. And then there's people that they're like, "Oh, that's so close. I wish it worked," and they'll just treat it as though it did and continue on writing. And I don't know what's going on with there. If it's drugs or ego or he doesn't care. It's like Gonzo mysticism, And don't get me wrong, I got Gonzo tattooed on my body. I'm down with the Gonzo philosophy. But as far as like when you're speaking to something like Gematria, I'm like, there's enough there within a given system that you shouldn't have to go make things work in that way, kind of like force. Kabbalists will do a thing even traditionally where they'll say if something's just like one off, it's short, they'll be like, and one for the all. So they'll like add an olive, so to speak. And like
we
whatever.
do the same thing in CryptoK with like measuring days, because like there's two different ways of measuring, and
Right.
time is not a perfectly linear thing. So like on one part of the globe at any given time, it's like 3 different days.
Right.
So like there is some wiggle room, but it's a very balanced thing.
But having said that, I'd say you can match, and I say to Thomas, like specifically to like your point or your question about can you match things, like star roots are done that way. Trying to connect vowels or consonants to other vowels or consonants has to be done that way. If you're trying to look at the perspective of something, like the East versus the West have decided to cross themselves right to left or left to right, you have to accept that there's all these weird nuances to the way that we're today thinking about a word, and that we're presentist, because we can't even imagine really what it would be like to operate without having our brains programmed the way we've had them programmed today. So you have to go back and wonder, like, I was thinking, I think I said this last time, but talking about the Genghis Khan story with the boiling water, right? So people then go on thinking this person is a monster, but that also is very useful, because in that time they're like, wow, he's magic, we're drinking this stuff, and he's it's this powerful person. Years later they're like, oh, he's a kind person. So it'll change everything if you're like, well, this is a kind leader versus this was a ferocious leader. And we're never going to understand the reasons behind why someone does the things they do because of that. I feel like that's the argument between ritualism and Taoism, or whatever it becomes, whether or not you're trying to do these enactments hoping that you're going to put your spirit in a position similar to what other spirits were put in the position of in material form, so that you'll have the same spiritual experience that somebody else had when they were living that life in that outfit and that stage, right? That seems to be kind of like Masonic staging or Jesuit staging. But instead, we should be trying to figure out, why do people make the choices they do? Why did you say tear the baby in half? Like, what was the context?
But everything's
the punchline.
purposeful.
Dude, I just watched that Seinfeld episode last night randomly.
Not
The
that there's
one
anything wrong
where Newman, there's a bike that Elaine wants, that Kramer wants, and they go to Newman to be the impartial judge, and Newman says, we cut the bike in half. And then and Elaine's like, fine, just take the bike. Like, and then he's like, it's
Dude,
just,
wow, what a saying.
Dude. When do you think, Wayne Knight? It's Wayne Knight who plays Newman. When do you think he was born?
Oh, Dennis Nerdy.
Don't do this. 237,000 hours.
August 9th, 1955. 237,000 hours after Kubrick.
That's pretty weird.
He's a new man.
Right.
And Yeah.
All right, yeah. Don't challenge that.
So
Like, the
speaking of which,
literally that I was mentioning earlier, that's what
I'm
Newman.
sorry, but I don't know. This doesn't have to be a whole conversation, but I have to do a segue here because I just tweeted on this, and I'm just like, dude, is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign about to turn into a full blown episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yes,
Because it sure looks like it. So like he's married to Cheryl Hines, you know, like so he is like almost synchronistically like Larry David himself. And what happens with Larry? He has like, you know, he's going somewhere. Oh my God, it's like
Did you see the picture of them today? That, I don't know
ooh, dude, yeah, no. So
it's an old one, but
this is the thing. So he just went on Jimmy Dore's podcast, and I guess it went private like halfway through, right after he started talking about how you know Jews, you know, well, the Palestinians should just move to Jordan. There's already Palestinians in Jordan, but like this is really heated. But what I found really interesting, I was like, this for Bernie Sanders, he said the opposite. So Bernie Sanders at a certain point in his campaign spoke up for Palestinian rights and immediately lost like almost all of his support from a lot of Jewish people who are also voters, and like so that there was like this really intense reaction to that. And like I'm like, well, if he turns out to be a full-on Zionist, or at least embracing Zionist ideologies, then it'd be hard to call him an anti-Semite by any of the current, you know, classifications. So I'm just like, that's an interesting
confuser,
right? Totally. Yeah. No, it's just and you know, I think he believes what he's saying is the thing. So like I saw him speaking about Israel on another Rumble video, and he kind of just lays out his views on it. I don't agree with them, but I think that he's being sincere, and I think that he's about to fucking have a full-on Larry David situation going on. Like it
could
feels
actually
like
be great. That's basically what made Trump elected in a lot of ways. Like, wow, look at this guy. I can't like, wait, stop. No, you're looking too? Like, I mean, the attention's all he needs.
right. Yeah.
Could they
Anyway.
team up in any reality?
Larry
Well,
David already kind of did that for Bernie on SNL. I mean, all they have their like puppets for puppeting, but
Well,
I don't know.
more specifically, Trump and RFK.
what about him? Sorry,
That would be very QAnon-y.
if they
Somebody
joined
has
up, is that what you're
changed.
saying?
TikTok.
If they
Yeah.
really wanted to confuse the hell out of everybody, they should have Cornel West run as vice president. Because as far as their views on Palestine go, it'd just be this total like, wait, what? How are we? It's like take a position. It feels so real, you know?
We just need wrestlers until we get to AI. So on to Kubrick, though. So this week has been AI and UFOs. UFOs has been funny and fun. They're saying that they have them, that they need to use extreme force to get to them. What's the 5 major things? Number one, government is, quote, absolutely in possession of UAPs, which are, you know, these UFOs are now called UAPs. Non-human biologics were found at the crash site. Okay, so non-human, which is like, what do you? Pigs are non-human. Yeah, dolphins are non-human. Are we talking about space dolphins? Are we putting orcas in space? Because you could do it. I want to hear more about squids in space.
How close is Nibiru right now?
Yeah, or Kolob. I'm really more interested now in Freemasonry and Mormonism. But officials must establish a safe and transparent reporting process. Okay, so they want people to talk about, and stigma associated with sightings silences possible witnesses. So they're thinking there's even more of these sightings. People don't want to say it. UFOs spotted accelerating to supersonic speeds. So we've seen our planes do supersonic. So what does that really mean? How fast are we saying? It's not a lot. What do you guys think about this? You know,
I think the parallels between the sea and space are noteworthy. I think like it's interesting that Echoes, which pairs with Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite, which is exactly 23 minutes and 26 seconds long, same length as Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite, from the title to when it says written and directed by Stanley Kubrick. That song originally, when they performed it live, was all space lyrics. It was about being in outer space, and then it changed to this underwater metaphor. And so, like, why Echo the dolphin is Echo the dolphin is because, you know, echolocation. You're talking about communications thing. So it's like there's this idea of like a message being delivered through space is kind of similar to like the way the dolphins will communicate with each other underwater. And it's like, there's something
that's sort of like, you know, implying that space is the medium rather than a vacuum, and that's the electrical universe kind of take on it.
Right. So there's like the idea that, or not just the idea, but that we've explored our oceans less than we've explored outer space. And then it's like, and women are even more of a mystery. So there's just, this is kind of like our, we use what percentage of our brains and how much of the internet kind of thing going on.
My brain isn't really very good at segueing, but on here. But the title of this is 237,000 hours. So I did recall and sort of put together the fact that it's not hours but miles that Jay Weidner claims that is 237,000 miles from the Earth to the Moon, which is kind of true, kind of not.
It doesn't matter if it's true or not. The question is was that believed at the time when The Shining was made? So
true. Yeah, that's another. Yeah, that's a good.
There's
point.
a lot of things like that when you talk about. That's what my feelings on Kenneth Grant is. I was just like, well, whether or not it's factual, you at least know. So it has a certain context because you at least know that it was influential to certain people, especially Hollywood and the music industry. So if you want to understand some of David Bowie's occult views or Kabbalistic views, you should look to Kenneth Grant. Not to say it ends there, but that's actually like Jason Barrero is making something of that point, and I I couldn't have agreed more.
Well, I have a friend who's like one of the, I don't know what you'd say, the deep, sounds goofy, but the deepest artists that I know, musician, and is a big fan of Kenneth Grant, and that's how I learned about him. And so he writes for artists, and because his whole message is that like art is channeling aliens essentially, and that
totally
people like H.P. Lovecraft are no different from someone like Aleister Crowley in the sense, well, maybe they're different, but in the sense that they're accessing real things.
Which aliens are they talking to might be different.
Right. Well, Grant is like, he's got his own whole thing with the night side of the tree of the tree.
As you were saying that, I was
tunnels of Set.
New Schwabia, right? So like that's been something that's been on my mind more and more. I was like, come on. Years ago, I was like, ha ha ha. That would be pretty silly, right? If there was just, but when they talk about aliens or non-human, and you hear about legal definitions of transhumanism and the kinds of governments which formed around South America and in East, there's room for the possibility of this. And the idea that New Schwabia was like some sort of not just Nazi, but the particularly the Vril and Hyperborean obsessed, the ones that were trying to do median work and talk to aliens in order to create UFOs. I mean, so it seems like when they talk about UFOs, they might just be talking about a civilization that's 100 years ahead of ours, right? Like it could just be as simple as like corporations from the military-industrial complex divorce themselves from the status quo and have built this new super society that's just 100 years ahead of what we have. And that could, I mean, maybe that might be a better explanation than extraterrestrials.
Wasn't it said that like the thing with Area 51 is that they're experimental military aircraft that they're testing out there, and that's why they don't want anyone near it? And as far as like UFOs go, saucer, like there's a saucer military vehicle that's completely disclosed. You probably know about that, Thomas. Have you come across that?
No, I'm not allowed to say anything. No, I don't know.
It's got a Wikipedia page. You know what I mean?
That's something I was just reading in the Ninth Arch actually. Grant talks about the Kenneth Arnold sighting. They both have the name Kenneth. He doesn't note that synchronicity, but the Kenneth Arnold being the first in 1947 sighting of UFOs, where the flying saucer idea came from, and that later on in a like interview later, he was like, "Well, I didn't say I saw flying saucers. I said I saw them and they skipped through the air like saucer on water, but they were actually more shaped like a beetle." Or like beetle shaped, which falls in line with like Joseph Farrell's hypothesis about the Nazi Bell project, which was like actually an acorn shape, which also overlaps with the kind of famous UFO sighting in the 1960s, which I can't remember the name of it now, but Kentwood.
Never forget that it's the Keck Bell. Because it's literally the Keck Bell. Like Pepe wouldn't want you to forget that. Pennsylvania. Kecksburg? Is that what it is?
Kecksburg. Yeah, I didn't even think it was think about the fact that it was Keck.
Yeah, never forget. and it looks like the Winnie the Pooh honey poo. It's adorable. Look at it.
It's a little
Honey-
cute little
honey-
acorn.
What is
It's
that?
like,
Well, this
dude,
is-
this is where Joseph Smith. No, I'm just kidding. But there's
was conceived.
Where the
Uh,
gold plates are.
it does have a lot of Deseret vibe though. To give you like, it kind of has like a beehive, like a Masonic Sumer
Yeah.
beehive.
I was gonna
This
say
is,
like
this
one of
is a
those
model
joke-
recreation. This we can't really judge it by its cover.
Well,
but
this
Okay,
is
so it's like a model of it because it looks like a giant dog poop.
yeah.
yeah,
I
that's
said Winnie-
really
I like the Winnie the Pooh better.
the story's
It's on-
fascinating
that's
though,
very
and it's
good.
one of the
That is
more
very
legit
good.
like UFO experience with a lot of credible witnesses.
Yeah, so but you see, this is supposedly what it originally looked like, and oh, come on, let me. If they want me to download the picture to share it, that's just rude, and it won't let me load it. This is a terrible application. This one, great,
There it is. Yeah, I don't. Where I didn't know there was pictures of it.
and
Honestly,
there's sigils.
I don't know
and
if this is
stuff.
real or not.
I'm pretty sure,
But that's what it's how it's described. Yeah, it had like Egyptian hieroglyphs on the outside of it. and
weirder than Egyptian. Looks like
um,
glogolitic.
weird.
or-
Yeah. So I
I
forgot
don't
why
know,
we brought
man.
that up.
I'm not sold on this one.
I'm
Really?
not
Dude,
sold.
you
I'm
gotta
not-
read about it. You
no.
can't look at the pictures. The story behind it is really
Yeah, the
compelling.
Kecksburg Bell,
It's
December 9th,
famous for a reason.
1965, Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, United States was a fireball reported by citizens of 6 United States and Canada over Detroit, Michigan, and Windsor, Ontario. So the Canadians have their whole bit about this too. The astronomers said it was likely to have been a meteor bolide burning up in the atmosphere and descending at a steep angle. NASA released a statement in 2005 reporting that experts had examined fragments from the area and determined that they were from a Soviet satellite. But the records of their finds were lost in 1987. Now there
Don't you
is
just
a,
love it when they're defensive, when NASA's
well,
defensive?
yeah, I just want to say there is an incident which worth talking about. There were like several actually nuclear satellites that entered atmosphere after about 10 years or less, and then they exploded or were torn apart and rained across the tundra parts of Canada, and it's a bummer. So there's truth to that, or at least that is a story that's told or something. I don't know. I've heard that all my life, that Russia lost some nuke satellites, and there's a huge cleanup effort that included multiple nations to go across snow to pick up pieces of a radiated satellite. Anyway, the Freedom of Information Act requests to search for records. NASA responded to court orders and Freedom of Information Act requests to search the records. So in other words, it's just gone. The incident gained wide notoriety in popular culture and ufology, with speculation ranging from extraterrestrial craft to debris from the Soviet space probe Cosmos 96.
Yeah,
Your birthday,
Andreas-
David, too, right? Or 15 years before.
Andreas, can you pull a picture of Venama, the Hindu, the Vedic UFO?
Yeah. If I'm on it.
I'm actually December 8th, Alex.
Oh, 8th though. No,
Oh, and by the way, I was trying to remember who it was that we interviewed on Always Record that was friends with Kenneth Grant, and it was Thomas Brown.
yeah.
Which is actually one of
I
our
remember
better
that
Always
interview.
Records. He's such a cool, interesting
him.
guy.
Love
yeah.
him. It'd be cool to get on here.
Yeah. I asked Ryan Go Rightly or Adam Go Rightly, and he wasn't into it. He's like, good show, but I don't feel like doing that. But he would be a good person to ask.
He
He's
actually
great.
knows Sean too, or talked to him back in the day.
Oh, okay.
The elusive
Sean Fella. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah,
this
the
one's giving me
Vermont
Baron
edition.
Baron Munchausen vibes right now.
Oh, yeah. Baron Munchausen is one of the realest things in the world, man.
Howl's Moving Castle. Right?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
movie
that's
is
another good one.
a true tale. Like that's literally like the truest movie I think I've
I
ever
watched
seen.
this in a philosophy class at
I need to watch
Cabrillo.
that one.
Freaking too real. That's just what life is. That's how it happened. That's the thing. Okay, yeah, I still think
Wait a minute,
Kecksburg-
that connects to the ninth
Oh, I wanted
gate,
to
right?
bring it back to the whole UFO and the hearing that went on July 26th
Mhm.
that I noted at the time was speaking of hours, it was 600,666, like 66666 hours since Roswell
Yeah.
happened. Was that UFO hearing on July 26th? So that's weird.
Yeah, can I just say again about the Fox? Yeah, that's 666 McCloud. Star Fox feels actually like it actually has some esoteric significance. You guys on that too?
Oh,
like
yeah.
that there's a whole thing there?
Well, it's a
Okay.
whole pantheon of like creatures, like right? It's like you got,
Lucifer is a star.
and then
Of course.
Andros is the villain.
Mhm.
Well,
Dude.
honestly, Star Fox is like a astrology for kids.
Mhm. So what's the deal with
You're a fox. You're a
like
you're a frog.
the dog days of summer, and like Sirius being its brightest, right? So like, are we getting heat from Sirius? Like, how does that work? Like, excuse my ignorance. I feel like I've gone
Probably.
over this before. Like, I just I don't remember. Is there? I mean, it's our closest star other than the sun, but it doesn't actually reach us like that, does it? What's the deal?
Well, they said that the Sirius is the source of the energy of the sun. It's behind the sun, right?
It's the sun behind the sun.
Right, but are we getting hot? Do we get hotter at this time
So-
because of Sirius or what?
No, theoretically, but it could be that they interact with each other, which could be a reason that causes the heat flares, which could be
Mhm.
experienced. And then
It
there's all
co-
kinds
yeah.
of like
it could
there's-
intensify something.
the idea
and-
of greenhouse gases is still like more real than ozone. So you have to think about like Venus and like what kind of a trap that we're in, and certain places get more heat. And maybe that's not true and all that other stuff. But
Well, the whole the electrical universe I mentioned before, the idea of space as a medium, it's like that in that sense. Like I think I might be pulling this out of my ass, but that it can actually travel faster than light through the medium. In the
right.
form
So
of like
the
scalar
thing
waves.
is, what is time? So time tends to be described as the degradation in a particle or in a cohesion of particles from one like space to another same space. So you kind of consider it the change or really degradation. But that degradation is because of radiation. So if it's not coming from the sun, it's coming from Sirius. Would that change? I mean, that might be you have a simultaneous different timeline that's occurring because it's from literally different vibrations to your whole mass.
From Series A and B.
Right.
This is a binary star.
Which
and that could
apparently is
change how
still
long you
is
live.
still censored on what Microsoft Telescope or all those like star maps, like they all come from NASA, right? Like so, like whatever any medium that you're using, that isn't that ultimately from NASA, if I'm not mistaken.
There's some
Yeah.
community source too, though, isn't there?
Is there? Because I don't know.
The
'cause
question again, though,
yeah.
is like, where does it all come from? Like, because realistically, it's probably government agencies, and they're involved with not
I
necessarily.
mean,
just
are
NASA,
the suns
there's also
even
the European
local?
Space Agency.
Maybe the suns are localized, right?
Right. Well, quite a
Yeah.
while ago, I went on to Microsoft Telescope and Google Sky, and in both cases, they had Sirius censored. And so, like, I know I've seen it before that when it wasn't censored, when you had that Hubble photograph included in in what you're looking at. But now there's like literally like a splotch on top of it that looks like photoshopped out. So
I really can't even deal with that with James Webb telescope. It's always like flares everywhere. I mean, I don't know why people think the pictures are from James Webb are like the most perfect, but instead it's like completely spreading the light everywhere. Well, if you just take a look at some samples, I mean, there's a lot of clarity, but it's
What about the idea that Roswell was a bunch of like Stalinite transhumanists? These childlike aliens.
Something tells me that's not true.
Well,
I mean, we just had this thing about the chimpanzee and right.
It's a
Like, what's it called?
spectrum. I think truth is a spectrum when it comes to this.
But I just talked about a crashed acorn with hieroglyphs on it, so who am I to judge?
Humansies, man. Don't forget the humansie. Like,
That's
hey,
right.
did you? Hey, Alex, did you go to was it the Olympia Sync Summit? Have you been to an Olympia Sync Summit?
Yeah.
Yeah,
One.
and I met you at an Olympia. You went to one.
Yeah, that was where we first met.
Yeah, when we first met, were you reading Jung's book on UFOs, or was that somebody else?
I don't think so.
That wasn't you. Yeah, no, there's. I remember when we met, because it was like I felt like I had known you for years, and me meeting you actually just felt like just so like, well, of course, like we're already friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, but
That was a
no,
weird night. So.
oh my god, the whole thing was crazy. But like, no, that book is really fascinating. Jung's book on UFOs. Have you've looked at that? Probably.
I have read it. It's really, it kind of influenced McKenna's UFO musings a lot, and which got him vilified by all the UFO believers that believe in that they're all from the Andromeda galaxy or whatever.
Yeah, like there's recorded incidents in history of like a ton of people all at once seeing like just anomalous thing. Like there was that one story, I think it came, Young talked about it, but it was even on the NASA website. They have that there's like this documented event where there was two opposing armies. I wish I knew the particulars. I can't remember, but there were two opposing armies about to fucking go to battle, and something appeared above in the sky, and they basically both walked away from the battle because it was so insane that they didn't even like know. But it's like there's the reports of it, like the recorded people speaking about it is like over the top. Like it's like so many people all confirm the same thing. It's really bizarre.
I went to the Secret Space Program conference in 2014, and there was a guy there that was like his kind of a grifter, but he was really cool. Who was like, he had night vision goggles, and he was like, "Oh, okay, everybody come out tonight, and we'll watch the skies, and you'll see the shit that's going on up there, you know, that's actually hidden." So we went, and we got there pretty late, and we got there, and I didn't personally see anything, but the guy that was there before us was like, "Yeah, we saw some ships in formation, like flying over," and so like, and a lot of people say that that's true. If you get the really expensive ass goggles and go out there and watch, that you can see stuff that's going on that people talk about wars in the sky today. You know?
Or
that might be crazy.
Fishbowl. I mean, come on, what's all this? Sundogs.
I saw that in the backyard a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's more to it. I think that we have to accept that it's probably not as simple as they're telling us the way things are, because as useful as it would be for everyone to know everything, the less people that know even lesser, that's better. That's more valuable.
This is one reason why I try to tell everybody to keep track of the Beetle guys, because that's there is battle going on up there. This is the shoulder of Orion, where the C-beam, whatever it is,
right,
ships that
which almost which they said was going to explode like a couple years ago. It was going to
because of the timing, it basically dimmed. Whenever it dims, it's anticipating.
You have all these people training their consciousness to be able to deal in virtual reality soon. I mean, they're trying to force people to, and they don't even want to. But then you got drugs and everything else, and people talk about AI or anything else. I mean, basically the point is virtual. Instead of going into outer space, it's inner space, and it might be more about right here and now inner space manifestation than extraterrestrial manifestation.
Have you ever heard that talk from William S. Burroughs about space travel, where he's just like describing it as all backwards? You know, he was like, you're building a ship and you're gonna, use all the explosives power that you can behind it to direct, like that whole idea. And he's like, and meanwhile you could travel to any world, in inner space, and it's actually even more direct than it would be like that. I don't know.
I think it's as weird to like try to take a metal craft and bring yourself to another space through like ripping through it, as it is trying to just change the space around you to be the way you want it to be. So I mean,
I'll tell you what, man, I was in the Himalayas, and I was like at one of the highest points I'd gotten to in my trip, and I forget the name of this mountain, Bintar, something like that. I went to this mountain, and in the middle of the night, I could go up on the roof, and it felt like I was like standing in space, and there was a shooting star like every 5 to 10 seconds that would just like leave a trail behind it. It was just like, growing up in the elevation that I'm at in California, even say I go up north, go to Shasta or something, you're like, oh, look at the stars. But the only time in my life that I've ever been like, wow, that's like you could see the Milky Way, like literally looking like milk. Like it's so crazy. And like, it was like, I had no point of reference for that. I was like, I didn't even know it could be like that. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm like, I didn't think about there being that many. They're shooting stars constantly, and every so often one will be bright enough at the elevation that I'm at to actually catch one, and you're like, "Whoa, it's shooting star! Make a wish!" And there it was just like, just all directions going past me. I just couldn't believe it.
It's not even about the elevation; it's the light pollution. Like
I've got a theory that's intentional. That the light pollution's meant to like make us stop caring about the cinema in the sky.
everything, even chemtrail, that night. But when I was in Mexico, there was nothing that's obstructing the sky, and I was in the middle of the jungle, and we were on the way to Chichen Itza pyramid, and it was like what David said, it's just like the sky was just amazing. There was no light anywhere, not even street light, miles around us, and we could hear jaguars way in the distance, but it was just beautiful. We saw these shooting stars, and we saw like every single detail. The Milky Way, just this big. It's like this big. Somebody spilled milk over the sky.
Yeah,
but it's
whatever
beautiful,
shape
beautiful.
the Earth is, it's like we can all agree that it's fucking beautiful.
Like somebody says, city folks. I wonder if they live in the city. Whoever said that, I don't know. I live surrounded by apple orchards. Most of my life, and where I'm currently at, so where I was born into. So
Whenever I have to go
in,
in, whenever I have to visit family in like upstate New York, it's like they got outhouses still. So this is the only times I get to see that kind of stuff. But that's exactly, it's the light pollution more than
yeah,
anything.
I agree with that. So yeah, I said elevate, but I mean I was at high elevation. I don't know if that hurt because you're definitely like way above any cloud level or atmospheric, lower atmospheric stuff.
But it could be because you're high in altitude that you see more collision. Like when you're on the ground, you don't see too much of the the incoming. What do you call it? Burnouts. When meteorites are flying into burning through the atmosphere. I think you don't see it as clearly when you're lower on the ground, but up in the mountain might see.
I did a Twitter search through my own tweets for 237,000 to see what came up, and one of them was I'll just read it.
You got 237,000 tweets about 237,000.
Yeah, there's a lot. We'll be here for a while, but it was blue. It was when Captain Kirk got shot up in the Bezos rocket. It was at T plus 237, 2 minutes and 37 seconds after takeoff. The Bezos Blue Origin rocket carrying Captain James T. Kirk reached 237,000 feet, and I've got the picture of it like aligned. I don't, which I can't really show you, but actually, yeah, I'll send it to you because it's worth it for the visual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of all the people to send up
rocket
there,
scientists being fucking weird.
They're like, we want to send the Rocket Man up there, but it said it was the most exciting thing he's ever experienced in his life, right?
I sent that picture to the chat there in the Twitter. Anyway, yeah, the rocket, yeah, the shape, the whole. It really puts a spin on what they're really doing with rockets, like what it's all about, and why there's this weird overlap between rocket science and the occult.
Right, and isn't it true that a lot of that technology that was developed by Nazis hired by the U.S. government went directly into missile technology not long thereafter?
Sure,
and so that seemed like that took the priority, right? It was like, how do we get the funding and our foot in the door to do the stuff that we really want to do?
Yeah, but we know like Apollo's bullshit, so
right.
That's the sort of, again, Farrell thing about the secret sort of underground, and that there's the like the day side and the night side of technology and space technology, and the night side is like crazier than anything we actually.
Right, a big thing is like quantum computation, and so every few days you'll hear like there's a new kind of semiconductor, superconductor.
Yeah, we've got this. What's this about?
Well, this one was the one like a week ago. I think people were saying, "Wow, LK99 is friggin' amazing," and now they're like, "Well, is it though? It might just be like ChatGPT lies strung together by this like Korean house that's trying to get viral marketing or something like that." But then again, couldn't that also just be a cover up to say like, go back to sleep, stop worrying about the fact that we've got a superconductor? It's hard to say. It's literally that hard to say at this point. The point is very soon we're going to have superconductors that will be able to handle photonic quantum computation. Probably in the next month, you'll be seeing some form of fabrication start to emerge where they're saying, okay, we're doing it. IBM said they're doing something of this.
What does this mean practically? Like, does this mean that like
so a big part of
make another leap?
Yeah. So like the thing is, right now you have passwords and things like that and encryption, and that only works because AI is not I mean, AI is working so fast to understand how to communicate between languages. You know, like even encrypted languages. You know, so very quickly, what's going to happen is AI will understand how to break every password, understand everything, and everything will become fully transparent, except only to whomever has access to that, who AI decides to tell, or people have control over.
Westworld season 3.
Yeah, but it's the question of what's going to be, how abundant can quantum computers become, and if the war happens right as they're starting to manufacture these new chips, then
Good
it
timing.
means it's very specifically small groups of people. I think Thomas was talking about the idea of AI video game chips, video game cards. They can start licensing them like guns, right? And make it hard for people to get them without the right to play video games or something.
I just, I just don't trust. I never trust. I'm just suspicious of the headlines. So I'm just questioning, why now?
What was the thing with somebody's commented here? 1952, Werner von Braun paper and his Elon, the Emperor of Mars. You guys remember that?
Oh yeah. The story he wrote.
That's the book, the Project Mars, a technical tale, the novel by Werner von Braun. It's actually
Was Werner von Braun doing like
53.
sci-fi? Is that like a
yes,
sci-fi?
I
Like
think
he's just writing a sci-fi novel, Werner von Braun. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
That book is a fictional account, and that's why he listed Elon as the leader of the council on Mars. Basically, we landed on Mars, but then realized that there's really a civilization there, and so that's what
he
that's
has
what Werner von Braun.
Psalm 19 on his gravestone.
Wait. They made a movie out of Werner von Braun's story? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, Conquest of Space.
He wrote this?
1955.
Wait,
American
there's a
Latino
movie that's
Oh
has
my
Elon
god,
in it?
I'm sensing a no. Does it say that in the movie? Let's look at the cast and see what
he's,
their names
he's
are.
already got his sync going in his head.
Adapted. Oh,
You
book.
know it.
Adapted, uncredited. Werner von Braun.
Okay.
It was originally published in German. Then there was
Hey, can you just scroll down? Can we see if there's an Elon character in the cast?
Well, you can look
I
it
think
up.
this is a different book. This isn't the one with Elon.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a different book.
Yeah,
It's just
I
an-
think he wrote several books, or he's involved probably with lots of books because of Arthur C. Clarke, right? Is that right?
It must be, yeah, because I mean he's in that advertisement for 2001, right? We discussed that on the show where he has the
who am I
swastika in
thinking
the room
of
in the
who's
first
in the
shot.
CIA.
Okay, well,
yeah.
here's a. You can actually download the whole book in PDF. Okay, I'm trying to find a clearer picture to read. Let's see. Yeah, you can look.
Bill
it up.
Buckley. I'm thinking of Bill Buckley and Snap talk with Cord Meyer. Right, Cord Meyer. So Cord Meyer was definitely trying to get people to write books, and influencing what was written in books. So having certain kinds of ghostwriters, or saying, "Oh, these were experts brought in, or editors brought in," right? And then those editors could be agents, or at very least sympathetic to the agency, or listening to them while they're listening back because they're working in NASA or something like that. And one of his friends, I think there's a good picture of Cord Meyer with Kubrick, actually, isn't there?
Even that picture, which was from an old Time Life magazine. Time Life was owned by Henry Luce, I believe, who was Skull and Bones and Century Club, and
He gets a mention in Oppenheimer. The new.
Oh, really?
If your
does he
fucking
really?
last name is Loose, dude, you have instant membership into all of those.
Nice.
Like, okay, come on in.
I want to see I finally got to see Oppenheimer with my wife, and like,
Yeah. So what do you think?
I
Not as good as Fireflies.
It could have been much better. They could have done a much better job. The editing is a mess in the whole first half of the film. The bomb is not as impressive as it looked, even in the documentaries. And the trial just drags on. It was like a whole hour of his communism liaison. I don't know. I can see why they got very technical and with the history.
Did you ever watch Barefoot Jen?
No.
Barefoot Jen.
Way better nuclear scene. It was horrifying. Oh my
I haven't
god,
seen
where is
that.
it? Yeah, it's like the bombs and just like fire.
Is
It's
this like
bad.
is this Ghost of Fireflies?
Oh, Ghosts of Fireflies. Oh, that's even worse.
Oh,
Don't even do that one.
I thought the Valley of the Wind was.
It's not Ghost. It's Grave of a Firefly.
Yeah, Grave of
the Firefly.
Fireflies.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Is this the
That's
scene?
from-
I don't want
that's
the
from
trailer.
EB,
I want the.
That's a horrifying movie.
That's a sad movie. I mean, if you really want to feel sad, go see that movie.
One of the most sad of all time.
It's so sad.
It's depressing, really.
Yeah, it's
more
like
accurate.
Do they not have the
It's
explosion
awful
scene? That's probably good. You
it's a
probably
really
don't wanna see that.
anti-war film. That's
Oh
what it
man,
is.
this scene is horrifying.
Oh, it's so brutal. Sorry. Yeah. Point
Hey,
is,
Thomas. Somebody says
Oppenheimer-
Tomoculus.
I think
Have you ever gone by Tomoculus?
I haven't. No, I like
Have
it.
you
though.
ever for life?
Tomoculus.
Now we're at another point. McCarthy trial.
Hey,
Is that Juan?
Andres,
What's up, Juan? I hope that's you. I don't know. But we love you if it's there.
That sounds like something he would say.
Uh,
one of his
I
other
uploaded the
homunculi.
yeah, sure. Some he would say. Video unavailable, dog.
Oh wow,
Video-
are they already get taken down?
Yeah, it looks like it. Oh yeah, both of them.
Oh wow.
Are these your videos?
They weren't my videos, but I've got a whole bunch of research from the Disney Nazi connection because I
Nice.
had like a little I was working on like a trading card set, but yeah, long story short,
The,
it didn't come
the
out.
YouTube account has been terminated.
So those were actually clips from classic Disney programs.
They're not on your main channel, right? It didn't take down your main channel.
No.
Okay, yeah. You should put these up on Rumble or on Odyssey for
If
sure.
I can find them again. And this is like really old. This is like a few years ago, so it doesn't surprise me they got taken down. But it was Disney presenting Werner von Braun and Heinz Haber, who were both high ranking, not just like, oh, they had to join the machine because everyone they were good at their jobs and enthusiastic about their jobs.
I
and
have
continue
that
to be
video. I
enthusiastic.
have that Vault on. It's a Vault Disney DVD. I've got that somewhere still. That's not available online. You can find that somewhere. Hold on. Yeah, he's crazy. I can't believe that they put him right there, but they just showed what they can do. Yeah, it's right there, right?
I have a question about Oppenheimer because
I saw it too, by the way.
oh yeah, what is this video? Okay, no, but
Walt, you've seen this probably before, right? Walt Disney was trying to convince people that our friend was the atom, right? And really, so he got a nuclear looking. He brought to Disney these paperclip Nazi scientists, and he put them on TV, and he made them look like, hey, look, we took rockets from China. And we figured out what to do with them, because they didn't know what to do with them. And now we're making the world a better place with rockets. So the only place to go from here is up with atoms. And it's cute cartoons and everything like that. But in it, they actually have, is it Man in Space? Yeah, you get the whole thing. You can watch the whole thing like some people just had it. Where is that
it's
guy?
funny. It reminds me of Strange Angel. The first opening scene is a Chinese warrior.
Hey, I'm not hearing it.
There he is.
Okay, you guys are pretty knowledgeable. Is there any instance of somebody so Jack Parsons was at in Pasadena with overlap of when Oppenheimer was at Berkeley for quite a while.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever made that connection, other than just speculate?
Yeah, David, this is exactly what I was trying to ask earlier, because in the movie Oppenheimer, right? So we know that famous the Vishnu quote that he said, "I'm become death, the destroyer of worlds."
I thought that was a Barbie quote.
Barbie is a Barbie.
Apparently, she's destroyer of relationships. That's what I've been hearing recently.
So when in the movie when he said that, it was when was that Florence Pugh? What's her role in the movie? Tatlock, right? So the Soviet spy, whatever. So she was having sex with Oppenheimer. But when she said, read this, she brought the Sanskrit to him. Said, read it. What does it say? You already studied Sanskrit, right? And so he's like, it says that Vishnu said he tried to impress the prince and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, why in that scene? Why did it take place in the sex scene? So I'm starting thinking about sex magic.
Didn't you ever watch that movie, Altered
Peaks
Space?
season 8. Twin Peaks.
I'll never forget, the best sex scene in any movie is the scene in Altered States.
Oh yeah, totally.
Where she's like, what are you thinking about? And he's like, death,
so
sacrifice, torture, crucifixions, God, the devil, everything, nothing. And she's like, Jeez, not me.
That's a bad trip, bad DMT trip. That's what he's having. But so
A really
in,
good one.
Is there such thing as a bad DMT trip?
some people, yeah, some
Question.
people can't
The
handle
one where you
it.
get
Some people have-
arrested.
Well, if you do
Well,
it,
that meme where that movie,
yeah,
right, when
okay,
he's
I
killed.
got
If you
you.
read
Something happens in the external world. Yeah.
if you read
Okay.
DMT, the spirit molecule, you know, out of the 60 subjects, there's one very impressive story. This guy, he had like a child abuse situation, really, really bad. Well, actually, it was a girl. It was a woman, but she was the one that had severe trauma, like basically just a full on, head on collision for her. Just trying to stop herself from killing herself on the what do you call it, the injection. But anyways, I was trying to bring that up. I don't know why Oppenheimer, that scene, it took. Well, the Indians were upset. Actually, they were protesting. Why do you bring the sacred text and mention it in the sex scene? So I really felt that this is like Jack Parsons, where there's correlation to where his rocketry really is based on sex magic, the Enochian sex magic.
I think one, just because of the thinking of homunculus, like the idea that we're creating a homunculus, like an homunculi AI or something like that, homunculi AI is part of that. We're creating something, and the world is maybe the other part of that that's weird is people forget that it's all about integrating it into our reality. So technology can do that better than ever before. We used to have these streets, and we don't need to have streets necessarily if nature can be hacked in such a way that it just produces streets. If things grow in certain ways, if seeds are brought by wind. And we're already seeing people get away from knowing how to program, even looking how to type, even using their phone, to talking to the device, right? So very soon people will just not even see the device. It'll just be ambient. So it's not going to be very long before the entire world itself is part of AI, right? AI starts to integrate itself into humanity. We hear about Neuralink, but it's more than that because it'll be integrated into farming, into wind patterns, into geoengineering, into all of the different species, if it can talk to whales and everything. So that's where it gets to techno-Gaianism. And techno-Gaianism isn't just as simple as turning the world into a natural biological machine. It's also kind of making the world conscious at that point. And I think that's a question to wonder about. I was seeing this article. What happens if the Earth gains consciousness as wired? And starting to notice, this idea, we talk about the Schumann resonance, but also we're getting to a point where our population has is about the amount of neurons there are in the human brain. And so even just on that level, there's multiple over populations of different things. What happens?
I like how
when the
this
Earth
is
becomes
phrased,
conscious?
where it's like, what if it gains consciousness? But isn't it the guy Lovelock is the one that came up with the Gaia theory, and that basically states that the Earth is an organism. It's a huge superorganism.
Right. This is immediately
James
where
Lovelock,
I went to.
yeah, the guy.
Yeah. Now, what do you guys think of Nassim Haramein? Any views on Nassim Haramein? You guys looked at Nassim Haramein?
I have no idea. Is that
Really?
the name? Yeah.
You don't know who Nassim? Oh, I'm surprised.
Maybe I'd have to see the research, I guess.
He does math. I know he does a pretty interesting thing with math, and he's into Tao. He's also isn't he a physicist?
Iranian?
He's a physicist, and and his stuff is peer reviewed. Not that anything can't be peer reviewed now, but it's like he's written papers, contributions to physics.
He's solid mainstream physics in a lot of ways. Actually, it's pretty good.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. I thought I would. For some reason, I was expecting if I just brought him up that each one of you guys would have like some variant.
No,
I haven't seen him in a long time. I watched his videos on. He had something about like Sanskrit math.
Right. So he kind of does himself a disservice when he does like a really long presentation. So if you watch like a 3+ hour presentation of this guy, he'll go over all these points in physics that are really appear to be really solid and like really profound. But then he'll start like 2 hours into it, then he'll start talking like biblically, like speculation, and he'll get really excited about it. And he'll just be like, the Ark of the Covenant was probably like this, energy vortex machine that they it's like, dude, you could have if you just would have done your TED talk and left it at your actual thesis, you
Have I
wouldn't be
gotten to the
regarded as
Draco
like
reptilians yet? I
right.
haven't?
So
Yeah.
it starts to feel kind of like crystal hippie,
Oh
whatever.
boy.
But the thing is that at the same time, like a lot of this stuff that you see people relating to in terms of like sacred geometry and where people go with it, a lot of stuff comes from Nassim Haramein, but it's just become its own kind of thing at this point that like people
Right, I
don't
saw this
realize
one,
where
the Connected
where it came from.
Universe. He did a
Well,
pretty good video. This
I'm-
Connected Universe video is actually pretty interesting. It has a lot of solid math, and it's kind of, but it's very much what the bleep do we know kind of a documentary.
So just so you know, this is so irrelevant but funny, and I have to say it, is that like there was a news special. It's hard to find the whole clip now, but at one point on a local news station, they were showing this woman that had given birth and had an orgasm during childbirth and no pain, supposedly, in like a hot tub. Like she's like, with
Hot
like
tub time machine.
the doula or whatever, and so
And that's her right and privilege. Good for her.
yeah. Oh, but she showed a clip of her having an orgasm on the news, and then they like for like a few seconds, like 10 seconds, they like talk to her husband, and it's freaking Nassim Haramein, and they don't say his name in it. It's just like you see him, and he's all like, "Yeah, she seemed like she was really excited," And he's just like,
Okay, he
so
just got a
funny.
lot more credit somehow.
That quantum mechanics really works.
Yeah. Yeah, people were having babies in tanks with dolphins or out with dolphins, and the dolphins started eating the babies and right away,
Yeah,
and then they
we
realized that just wasn't a good idea.
Lessons every few centuries, I think.
We brought up Echo before too. I feel like at least someone has to say the name John C. Lilly now 3 times, and maybe
Right.
he'll appear. John C. Lilly, John C. Lilly, John
No,
C.
you
Lilly.
you have to say it at midnight during a full moon, looking in the mirror with a
That's
candle lit.
Isn't it
Actually,
the Earth
all it takes
Coincidence
for me,
Control Office?
yeah, all it takes for me is like if I get in a bathtub, if I'm just like sitting in a bathtub for like an hour or something like that, I get some Echo vibes that hit me. It's not necessarily Lily, but I think Lily's part of Echo at this point. Like he's somehow OTA'd into Echo.
Well, he had his whole thing, the Earth Coincidence Control Office, which
And
is,
solid state intelligence. SSI.
Wow, are we on the AOL right now? What's happening?
is like
I
Valis
I like the burlesque quality of dial-up.
His website is the burlesque. His website is still up too, and it's like a snapshot in time. If you find John C. Lilly's like live journal or something, it's got like the animated.
The problem is if you do disassociatives like nonstop, eventually you can't understand a word that comes out of the mouth.
So his thing was ketamine, is that right? He was like,
yeah, he
a
liked
ketamine
different
guy?
variants of PCP, PCs.
he died in September 2001. I didn't realize that.
But he also did like everything else too. Like he had an abundant
He did
amount of 90 and everything in between.
19 days after September 11th.
What's weird, I was thinking about this recently, like because the UN banned a bunch of drugs and China banned a bunch of research chemicals. So they have this thing called the Forbidden Scroll, right? And that got rid of thousands of kinds of variant research chemicals. And those are basically just open source, non-pharmaceutical owned chemicals. But those are doorways. Like Aldous Huxley would say, those are keys to doorways. So those are all doors that some people went through in this lifetime that no one knows about in the next generation and will not go through. And I think that's very interesting because that becomes very selective. Who becomes the key holder? I'm going to pull up a picture of a Jesuit right now because of the key, because the rosary. That's what I want. The rosary.
I thought Martin Sheen was going to pop up. No.
Yeah, true. But it just feels like this is the keychain. You know what I mean? To open the doors of perception. That's what they're getting at this point.
Weird. They're just weird thing. I was just watching The Mission yesterday, and that's what.
What is wrong with you? No, I'm just kidding. I love that movie. I've got problems, man.
Just that part where Jeremy Iron was trying to refuse to give Robert De Niro the blessing, so he's like, "Here, have my rosary."
Right.
So
wow. I think it's an interesting movie, especially because you've got like the natives eventually who used to sleep outside show up at the church and like, I can't go sleep in my home forest because it's haunted. That's what the church told me, right? So now they're afraid to live in their home, and they have to live in these like freaking buildings where they're gonna get sick. And yeah, I mean that's a great movie.
It's on just like a random sync from my own head, but it's wild that you just brought that picture of De Niro because you're talking about people are going to stop programming and stuff, and you're just going to talk to the computer. And I was just thinking everyone except for the technicians, and they're going to look just like De Niro in Brazil, where they like come out of the wall and have to like figure out exactly where the problem is. Like those people are always going to exist because the code's always going to exist somewhere.
Someone's gonna have to sweep the floors for the Roomba shop. It's true.
That's right. That's exactly
So,
what
so
it is.
you guys are catching that apparently the Barbie movies, like it's like the Matrix for girls, and it's not just the
Really?
Matrix. It seems to be the Lego movie, because the Lego movie was like based off the Matrix overtly, but it seems like this is it seems really
The
similar
Lego
to
movie
me.
was like the Matrix with the secret. I
So,
think. It was-
okay, I haven't
You know,
I haven't seen the Barbie movie yet, but I took the shoe pill. You guys know Shoe on Head. I recommend watching her video on the Barbie movie. It's pretty freaking good, because there's like you had made the point to what's her
I
name,
saw it.
Oedipus Moss, what is her name,
Yeah.
Bridget,
Or
yeah, and like that she said that she would watch it just based on your tweet alone, that you were like, actually it was pretty good or something along those lines,
Well,
but
Erica loved it,
I
and-
took the shoe pill, and I'm right there with you. Like, I don't know what you'd elaborate on with that, but it's like it's more nuanced than the way people are taking it, like Ben
I'm
It's
Shapiro.
just
way
waiting
smarter.
for
It's
the
way
official-
smarter than they are giving.
I
anyone's giving
promised
credit
to
for.
Adam Krigler on Base AF that people would be watching Oppenheimer and Barbie in the left and right eye, and so I've been waiting for you to make that, David.
Yeah,
Basically,
it's
I feel
a-
like it's
Yeah.
gonna be.
I will say it's a far better movie than Oppenheimer,
really, right?
and it was. I mean, just as a movie, it was hilarious. I mean,
I
Just-
was reading some anon posts from Korea, and a guy's like, I'm in Korea. I go to see Oppenheimer. They nuke Japan, and people start applauding and clapping and shouting in the theater.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, brutal. So I mean, it's just for different demographics, I think, is the point there.
Is it marketed differently
was,
there?
well, here's the funny thing. I was
Barbie's
supposed
doing
to,
better in Japan
my-
than Oppenheimer, probably.
My,
I would
my
think
wife,
so.
my wife wanted
Barbie's
to
like the
see Barbie.
Avengers for girls. I think.
I was supposed to see Barbie. We were planning to go see, because it was my wife, and because my kid had a sleepover, so we only had our only chance to go see a theater when the kids are away. So we wanted to see Barbie, but every single theater we're looking around in Burbank, there are seats, but we cannot sit together. So we were looking
Like
looking
crazy.
at
That's why I
AMC.
say it's like the Avengers, because it's going to spawn this whole new universe, which will probably last for a year
Yeah,
before they realize that.
something is obstructing this. So I don't know if I ever gonna see Barbie anytime soon. But
We gotta
something's
make it happen.
Open.
Speaking of which, Eddie and I met up when we went in Hollywood, and so we went to the Comedy Store, which was pretty funny. So I mean, it wasn't funny at the Comedy Store; it was funny that we went. No, I'm just kidding. Also,
Yeah.
some of the times it was kind of funny. This is the other thing that blew my mind, because I feel like the Comedy Club. First off, you go to LA, and the Comedy Club isn't Pauly Shore's mom started it?
Well, yeah. Well, both his parents, but his dad gave up because they were divorcing.
Yeah. So his mom took care of it for a long time. And so it was, I think, probably the funniest place in the 90s and early 2000s in Hollywood. Maybe.
All the big names came from there.
Yeah.
You look at David Letterman came from there.
David Letterman was a
Leno.
doorman at the Comedy Store, for instance.
Mhm.
And so that also shows you kind of the tie-ins. Like Andy Kaufman did stuff at the Comedy Store in the 70s. So it has a long legacy. But
Even
people that
before
used to upset people, like Freemasons,
Before-
Shriners, all kinds of people doing
Well,
shows. there.
it was a mafia hangout, and that's why the place is haunted, because there was allegedly an abortion clinic in the basement, and that's
Oh wow!
that's what
I
people
didn't know that part.
There's like weird like crazy activities.
While it was also a comedy club,
Makes sense, because it covers up the.
the laughter. They had to wait for like a big
man.
punchline to hit.
Don't be as dark as me, bro. Oh, sorry.
Clap when the kitchen
Somebody,
is banging.
somebody
I feel
said
bad. Yeah.
Sophia Stewart wrote Barbie in the chat, and I laughed at that. I just thought that's a good joke.
That would be
Probably
pretty
few
good.
people will get, but
Maybe.
I appreciated it.
So in the Comedy Store, and then so the other thing is like COVID's happened, so they had to destroy Hollywood, and California was hit the hardest, I think, of most places. So they're kind of reviving now. It's like post-plague kind of scene, but they've lost a lot of people. A lot of people.
Everybody escaped to Austin. Yeah, everybody,
Yeah.
all the major, tons of comedians ran to Austin.
So Funny went with the right whatever that means, you know, because it's also, you've got a lot of people that were just, they ended up in Texas, but Texas was controlled by old oil money. So that now it is still controlled by who it was controlled by. And that hasn't changed. So they're kind of allying with some interesting kind of neoconservative forces. Just doing
Ron
that.
White, right? Ron White spearheaded the like, let's move everybody to Austin, and then
And
Yeah,
spearfished with oh god, what's his name?
It's
You know?
mostly because of Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan
Dr.
also
Phil.
came from Joe Rogan. Also had his
well,
beginnings
it was
at-
Ron White to Joe Rogan, and then like the Kill Tony moving from California to Austin. I think
And
is
Ron,
like the nail in
Ron
the
White
coffin.
is so he liked to go on. He goes boating with Dr. Phil, and he's friends with Dr. Phil. So when you start to see like that kind of like Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, all these kinds of like TV like personalities, it's like, okay, what is it really that is the goal? Anyway, California, then you're forced to be liberal, whether you want to be or not, while being a comedian, which is kind of like being in communist Russia and still being funny. I actually have more respect for somebody that can handle that. And it was only sometimes funny. Like some of the jokes were literally just a girl screaming for 5 minutes that she'd been molested. Still, somehow she sold it, though, is the point. And
You guys been seeing what Dana Carvey's been doing?
no. Oh,
I'd
does
pay
he
to see that.
podcast? He does a podcast with Spade, or no? You're talking about
Just-
stand-up.
yes,
Yeah,
he does a
yeah,
podcast
they
with
have
Spade, and some of the, it's like it's maybe better late than never. But
Yeah,
he's
you know
been
what? I'm
doing
kind of-
some good there.
I don't hate on Spade. Spade's actually like I can hate on him. I'm trying.
Oh,
not
he's
to.
just like whatever. I'm neutral
Yeah.
with Spade. I'm just saying
Dana
what
Carvey's
Dana Carvey's
brother-
been fucking coming with, dude. It's like it's what he was doing in the '90s applicable to today, and he's doing it just
That's
just
cool.
doing it just like he did it. And
Dana Carvey's brother
yeah.
invented the video toaster for Amiga, and his brother is like a genius computer engineer. They made it possible for then Tony Hawk to make his first skate video. So there's also like a tie-in to all the media scene. Once you work in media,
Right.
then like there's things that they have tied together. Point is though, racism, wokeism, leftism, rightism. What is it? What's the problem? What is it all is making? And the question came up again because of watching a comedy show. Because I feel like I was laughing at the only funny parts, but I was also only one laughing besides maybe Eddie. You know, Eddie would look at me like, dude, don't talk about Scientology in here right now. You know, I'm just saying, like, I think people in Hollywood are kind of scared, and it might be the problem of political correctness. Like more than it's the left or the right, because
you
the
would think
right's
that-
this oil money, and the left used to be all about like, let's include the gays. You know, like what happened to inclusivity? It's not what it used to be.
You would think that the liberals will be allow telling jokes. You know, oh yeah, this liberal. Let's just make fun of
Because
everybody's
in the old days, it
And-
was let's include the gays, let's include the Jews, let's include.
Right, but that
people
we didn't have
feel
the
excluded.
ESG scores, and we didn't have
Now
ESG
it's
ratings
like-
in those days, and so it's like everybody. It's just a fucking life raft. So like all these companies, and it includes universities, have to get those high ESG ratings. Tesla's got like what is it like? Is it even 30%? Whereas Big Tobacco has like 78 or something. It's like, and it has nothing to do with real environmentalism at this point. It's all the like what people are putting out. So it's like I don't think Bud Light expected the loss that it got, but I think it was predicting that there would be a loss out of them doing that. But they were like, it's worth it because they'll be able to get loans and bailouts from banks should the economy collapse, or or they have difficulties. They can actually get a loan. So it's very much like that elite club issue, and it's funny because it just seems like it's the elephant in the room because people keep treating this stuff like it's all it is a woke debate on its own terms, when really it's about compliance. It's about who's complying with the WEF and all this kind of standard that's been set up that you're supposed to go along with the program. So it's like it's an indicator if they bend to that they're going with the program, and I could see that applying to Hollywood studios. Music labels, just
so Slavoj Zizek was saying like in I think Schopenhauer, who says that if there is no God, then anything is permissible. But he says it's probably the opposite. It's that without God to establish that you have inalienable rights, and he's an atheist saying this, without that, then everything's permissible. Then anything can be taken away. Anyone can justify anything. Any group of people or any super oligarch can find a way to make it permissible. Until it's like, like homosexuality is natural, breaking the speed of light is unnatural, that kind of a logic. And so then what you do is you create something to replace God, which is this state and political correctness or whatever. Political correctness might not be the best word for it,
Oh, well,
but it's
yeah, that's
something
just that's a human tendency is just to make a religion out of just about fucking
but
anything.
it's also like, are you doing it? Are you part of it? Are you participatory? How participatory are you? And so eventually it becomes this hyper restrictive, like, we've seen this happen with democracy in 1600s England. The Commonwealth was more restricted than they were under a king, where the king gave them inalienable rights, right? So they went back to a king. It feels like that's what we're seeing is people saying, let's go to the right. Let's go get away from the left, because the right's going to let us have comedy clubs. And that seems very short-sighted, because the idea of the right is really exclusivity in its prime. And the left is not necessarily supposed to be cultural Marxism to an anti-bourgeoisie level, where it just glorifies and perpetuates the proletariat in its brutalist architecture.
Right. Well, I mean, Carlin was super left at the time as left was defined. And so that's the thing is, I think if RFK has any value, I mean, one of those big values besides, particular topics that we should maybe stay away from is that, maybe not, I don't know at this point, but is that he's all about
no problem for talking about adrenochrome.
Okay, good. But that I'm sorry, I sound like I'm campaigning for him, but it's like I'm not. But it's this idea that
RFK Jr.
that the goalposts have changed. I'm being Captain Obvious, but the goalposts have changed so dramatically from the time of his father, etc. That it's like, what are we even doing? Like, what are we even saying? Like, all of the ideals have completely shifted. So like, it's ridiculous. It's insane.
Unless the politician pulls off his face and reveals his circuitry and puts my hands into his gears and gets the fingers wet with like the oil lubrication, I don't want to vote for them anymore.
Right. I got
if they're human, I think it's not worth it.
I mean, I think I'm done thinking the left and right paradigm. My deepest belief that they're always working together. 10 years ago, I'd be scared to death about George Bush.
Right.
I ran to Mexico because of George Bush. And then I look at him, came back, and for this douchebag that's running the country.
Right. It's the mechanism though.
Trick.
Like his book is like got Fauci in the title for a reason. It's because it's a challenge. It's saying, if anything in here is untrue, see me in court about it. And like, that seems to be the point. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have fallacies. He seems to have there's major points, but I think he's sincere. I really do. And I don't think he's trying to play political sheepdog like Bernie did. Like, I agreed with a lot of the things that Bernie Sanders had to say. It doesn't change the fact he's a political sheepdog. I'm not really seeing that here. And so, and in a way, it's actually good that he took a position that I don't agree with on Israel, because it's like, look what happens when you do the opposite. They throw you under the bus and you don't stand any chance. So it's just like, I don't know. And I don't think he said it to be with that agenda in mind. I think he said it because he actually believes it, because those are the people that he's surrounded by. I mean, he's probably just saying exactly what Larry David thinks, just doesn't say into audience, say to an audience.
Is Cheryl Hines the actual
scene
controller?
Where Jones is under the bus. I was just thinking about,
He says she is.
She's the ventriloquist.
That's the thing.
Yeah. What's the deal with this article, Thomas? This is a UFO in 1665, the air battle of Stralsund.
This is just one of the many ones that we were talking about, like really historical UFO sightings. This isn't the one that happened over the battlefield, but this was seen by such a wide number of people that it's been cited as this means aliens are real.
This sounds,
or at very least UFOs.
It almost looks like the Battle of Los Angeles, 1942. It was
that crazy light show thing that happened.
Yeah.
Light show. I like how
they have all these anti-air guns.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about the Iron Dome. Did you guys see the light show? Sorry.
1665.
What are those called? Those super cinema lights that they blast up in the sky. It's like film.
The bat signal.
Bat lights, bat lights. Those bat lights, they do like illuminate the streets essentially. Those are pretty interesting. Just the fact that Hollywood had like a epicenter of tungsten and light technology. I mean, it's pretty fascinating how much energy went into light production for
You
Hollywood.
guys seen The Bat, the movie, the silent film The Bat from like the 1920s or 30s, I think. This is like it's Batman basically, but he's a criminal, he's a thief, and he breaks into this house. And it's kind of like a murder/robbery mystery, and then they spoiler alert, but they catch him at the end. But at one point, there's a bat signal that moves through the room that looks exactly like the bat signal, and then they realize it's the headlights. It's a moth on a headlight. And so they're like, "Oh, it's just a moth." But it's funny because I found places where they say this is the inspiration for Batman. But then if you look at Batman from the other side, you won't find reference to this. So it's kind of like the Bluebird with the Wizard of Oz. It's like in one direction it'll say it influenced it, in another direction it will make no mention. So
well. I don't know. When I first saw the Batman, the Tim Burton Batman logo, the first thing I look at is like, wait, it doesn't look like bad. It looks like a mouth, like a cartoon mouth with a bunch of teeth.
The flying rat.
Yeah, flying rat. But anyways,
Uh-huh.
but back to the UFO thing though. I don't know. What 1665? That's just a year before the Sabbatean conversion, right? That was in 16.
And Newton discovers gravity in 1666. Is that
Was
also
it?
the case?
Oh,
Wait, 1666? That's the
pretty
year
sure.
of the giant fire in London when all
Yeah,
London
yeah.
burned down.
Crucial,
We were just talking
crucial
about that,
year.
yeah.
It's 333 years before 1999.
Well, you know what? I've thought about that. I've thought that for those people living at that time, there must have been a lot of like religious fervor around the date is 66666. Like that year must have been like oh, it's gonna be the apocalypse. That was probably their new age time leading up to
Let's
that.
kill a whole bunch of
it's
people.
the
fire,
old Y2K.
What do you think about the giant ocean waves, right? Like they're saying that California's waves are getting bigger. Like for me, that's a good thing. But I mean, I think for a lot of people, it might be scary. I mean, they're talking about they could get like so much consistently bigger that it might get to a point that it's dangerous.
It's actually causing a lot of the what is it? Not Newport Beach. I forgot which coast, but yeah, $1 million homes are falling to. Also in Calabasas too.
All right, so it's not all bad,
the
but there's got to be something wrong with it, right? I mean,
the Kardashians, their homes are going to fall into the ocean in no time.
All right, stop trying to sell me on it. No, what's wrong with it? The problem here,
Dude.
Good. I was going to say, speaking of falling into the ocean, and because David just brought up the bat, I knew that I recognized the name of the producer because on a random wild thing, Roland West, because he's tied to this disappearing ship. It was called the Joyita, I think, and there's like this whole like conspiracy theory hypothesis about what happened because. There might have been a mutiny. There might have been a murder on board. It might have been like a legit,
Was
murder
this
mystery.
related to the death of Thelma Todd?
It is. It's exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this right here. This. I don't know. This came up the other day, and it was like, there's so many weird ties that go into this thing because.
Thomas, if you could go loose on this one, I've really tripped out on that movie, The Bat. Like that is really a weird one. But if you can find any weird backstory stuff connected to it, I really appreciate it. I included it. Yeah.
I've been on like a weird yacht expedition. The other one too is Onassis, the Onassis yacht and the Onassis Islands, and how it relates to Howard Hughes. And they were doing like these deep sea submarine stuff because Howard Hughes somehow was like footing the bill for like a really deep excursion submarine vessel, and it was the first time that anyone had made one. And it's crazy, dude. Like the luxury yachts are based in sort of like CIA technology.
Wait, what are we talking about? Jackie Onassis too? Is it what is happening?
Yeah. So yeah, when JFK died, and that dude, this is crazy too, the whole JFK connection. But JFK dies, and it was like the last barrier for what was his name? Socrates Onassis or Aristotle Onassis.
Yeah.
Aristotle Onassis like moves in and scoops up Jackie and turns her into Jackie Onassis. And then like
there's that letter. There's a letter from JFK saying keep her away from
dude.
Yeah.
Because he had his eye on her, and it was crazy because there's some quotes about her as well, saying that she didn't really know what rich was until she started going out with Onassis. Like the
Right.
difference between, okay, yeah, you're rich, you're a president, you know, you're the leader of the free world, and then going and seeing this Greek oil / maybe heroin
Right.
dealer and being like, oh, this is what real money is.
Well,
Dylan Mulvaney and Jackie Kennedy Onassis seem like the same thing to me, man. I don't know.
No, I'm
No, why are
sorry.
you
No,
comparing them?
one's a
Well,
misogynist. The other
what
one
kind of
was the
matchup is
wife
this?
of a president.
One's a misogynist, the other's transgender. That's right. Okay.
Right.
Passed
Okay.
down to Onassis' granddaughter. Okay. Submarine Island. Let's see. Oh, I owe Lizzo story because we got a super chat from Stefan, who says Lizzo accused of sexual harassment according to the BBC. And I saw this and I wasn't going to bring it up for $2. I think it's
You
all
can't
right.
blame a girl for trying.
I mean, yeah. So
Wearing a Batman mask too.
I think
Lizzo accused of weight
I
shaming?
think, yeah, like Lizzo's always been my hero, and I'm pro fat chick. I think is what I got called on Twitter because I said that like the big thighed girl. They're like, "Is this girl fat?" I'm like, "I don't think so," but a lot of people did. I'm like, "Well, I guess then I'm for it." Like, I don't know, but I'm not talking about Lizzo. That's a whole other thing. Point is, Lizzo is also forced to eat to be bigger because she was too small to be famous, and so there's that. And then she stopped performing because she didn't want to do that. And then she said some stuff about like, you know, getting fit, like, because you can be big but be fit. And then they took that to be like, oh, you're like the worst lady because you're talking about like exercising and like we're just dancers, you know what I mean? Like it's not like we exercise or something like that. So I don't know. Lizzo's a hero.
She's being used as kind of a poster child for a movement she probably doesn't entirely resonate with. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Good point.
Yeah, I think that's also kind of the point is that as soon as you stop doing what they say, then they're going to take the microphone away. And so it's kind of funny because she was able to at least use Mozart's flute or whatever as long as she was twerking. And yeah,
She's
it's
an
a good
incredible
lesson for
flute player, by the way. I mean, that
Loudest.
was pretty impressive. You know?
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know what? That's a cool outfit. And I said it. All right.
Just
What-
to throw this
what we
out
got?
there, wasn't the Magical Flute the song that got Mozart killed?
Is he got
Well,
killed?
Is that a
Opera,
thing?
the magic flute.
The
I
magic flute
probably.
was like commissioned by the Masonic Lodge or something like that.
Yeah, isn't that
Weren't
the one
they
that got him
all
killed?
commissioned by the Masonic Lodge practically? Wasn't that like
This is why
who
he
was
was
working
killed,
for
All
it?
written
Well,
by the
he-
Why do you say that, Thomas? Why do you think he was killed? What's the story you know there?
One of the stories was that he had baked in Masonic secrets. It might not have been this particular. I thought it was a magic flute that he had baked in Masonic secrets into the music itself, and
I have a
that
whole
there's
book on
this
that,
rumor that
which I have not
the
read.
Masons they had him killed, and not only did they have him killed, but everyone was so afraid of crossing them that only the dog, I guess, followed the funeral procession. Like no one else showed up to it. That was one
I
of
feel
the.
like they said the
stories
same
that
thing
we-
about William Sterling, who did the canon, right? I forget if I might be getting that wrong, but
That's
yeah,
pretty
the
wild.
people who reveal a ton of Masonic secrets, it doesn't usually go off for them pretty well. But that's interesting to encode it subliminally in the arts, and that being a problem because isn't that the whole hermetic task? Did he just not veil it enough? Like, because there's that idea of like their ideal is to illuminate humanity. So what the hell then?
Don't
You
take it
know.
off too
Well,
quickly, dude. Dial up burlesque. That's the you
Mm.
know. let
If
the-
you look at
that's
if
the
you look
wedding.
at Magic Flute, the story is about mind control. You know, it's
Bears.
about you're playing the flute. To,
Alex, how many times does Alex say bears whenever there's
Bears.
bears?
Just once so far.
Oh, that's funny thing. There's a like weird bear scene going on because in China
Yeah.
there's a zoo.
Yeah.
They're claiming that somebody's wearing a bear suit in the zoo. Like the bear died, and they're trying to like, keep it alive.
Yeah.
Alex, can you
saw that.
can you
Saw that.
devote like an entire like
Kinda
show
weird.
to just discussing all the bear stuff? Because I mean, it's
Sure.
so it's so
That's a good
exciting.
idea.
Chinese have been faking
it-
bears for centuries. Like we all know about pandas, you know, and Benjamin brought that up. I guess
China
Owen
has
Benjamin,
a-
someone said in the chat, had Eisenhower's daughter on recently, like in the last 5 days. So that's probably worth checking out as well. This fusion reactor is held together with tape, which is because it's a thin film on a polymer. Not that exciting. How about this is cool though. This is the thing. Is there more to this?
It's definitely a thing. There's a part 2 on this as well. But if you read the context here, he was being commissioned, and David's right. The Freemasons were commissioning a lot of music from him, and one of those was the Bavarian Lodge. And the last
So he
piece of
makes them a
music-
friggin' so how come he makes them a song, he encodes secrets for them and they kill him? Why not just burn it and say, sorry, we don't really want our song to be like, you know, an innuendo. It's
Well,
mean.
from what I understand is that they were commissioning him to do like music, and that it was like a Stanley Kubrick moment, right? It was like, we're gonna hire you to do these movies,
Oh, he was a
and then
dick
it was
about
like, wait a minute, what did you do? And
Right,
Mhm.
right.
different
Heaven's
rules.
Gate, right? Yeah, no, it's yeah.
Sounds like a bunch
There's
of
nothing to stop
complainers.
a conspirator from conspiring against his fellow conspirators, and that happens more often, I think, than people realize. That because people are people, and some people have a freaking conscience, or they have whatever their other motivations are. Not everyone's all on the same page, you know.
If you read that last statement there, Mozart suffered a painful, mysterious death, confided in his loved ones, his conviction that he had been poisoned. So he himself
Bruh.
believed that the Masons basically took him out. And I just want to say there's an overlap here because this is 1791, right? And he was
Okay.
writing music way
Temple
earlier
of
than
Wisdom,
that.
Reason, and Nature, bruh.
But what else was happening around Bavaria in the
Right,
late
that was the actual
1770s?
court proceedings for Weishaupt or whatever.
Yeah, where's
Yeah.
Mozart's from Wien, right? He's from Vienna.
So Proofs of a Conspiracy was published in 1778, right? Or was it? Or
Salzburg.
is
Yeah,
that right?
So he's got a
forget.
house in
The Robeson?
Salzburg, and you can still visit it. I went there.
Yeah,
once.
yeah. That book wasn't that what 1778?
Yeah,
Is
that was
correct?
that was afterwards because that was talking about them, basically like a rat line to the U.S. And that was where
Oh, right,
Washington
right.
was like, "Don't worry about it. I've looked into it. Like the Illuminati haven't made their way over here into the lodges the same way that they
Yeah,
have there."
bullshit. That's like saying Valley of the Dolls wasn't based on anything but fiction. But what were you going to connect it to in time, Thomas?
Well, Mozart had come up, and we were talking, and Andreas said he's been on like a Freemasonic kick, and that's
No,
just
I'm saying you said the
With
timing
Mormonism,
of
because Mormonism is like literally just like destroyed because they tried to expose, Freemasonic rituals. So yeah, you know what? I think that Freemason rituals are just kind of like not the full version of my like Mormon rituals. Check this out. And they're like,
it's cute
I
what
don't
you
like
got
this.
there.
I don't like this as much or something. He's like, no, it's cool. And they're like, no, it's not. And that was kind of like his
They were
death
just like hip hop sampling it. That was
dude.
all
That
it was.
is totally what that is. That is just like freaking.
But no, his idea was like really it makes sense that you would have traditions because these traditions would go back to the ancient, church that existed, the ancient priesthood, and they're just kind of broken. Like the way Japanese people in 2008 had been mumbling Portuguese prayers from before the Edo period because they become hidden Christians. Yeah, there's still something there, but they're eating rice. It's not the Eucharist. Things are broken, And so that's what it's about Freemasonry.
Isn't it just a classic like copyright issue practically, like as far as Mormonism using the Masonic rites and all like
No,
almost
I think
verbatim?
it's more than that because it's also like the idea that he's saying that this is. I mean, because also it's at a time when Andrew Jackson's like an anti-Mason, or Andrew Jackson a Mason, and there's a bunch of anti-Masonic sentiment surrounding this new generation that's taking over America because the old generation or the old families surrounding the founding fathers, a lot of them were falling away. There's still some, but for the most part, they're not as powerful, and they'd been bastardized. Like the more important families, like George Washington's actual family was black, and so they were not given the same status. But that was cool with Freemasons because it was a meritocracy, and they thought that they would build up and it would all work out, and it doesn't. Is the problem. Like eventually,
I just mean in the sense that their actual rituals are almost verbatim the Masonic rituals, are they not?
No, but some of them are really clearly from them. And they're like,
Okay.
check this out. Like, this is clearly the fulfillment of what that was about in your ritual. There were some rituals, and also they're taken out in the 70s. Like, tons of Masonic stuff was taken out of Mormonism or Latter-day Saint, Church of Latter-day Saints. But they have a bunch of traditions. Like, they used to use temple ceremonies to do their instead of just saying, hi, put your hands up and we'll make you into a member. They would have them dress up and do ritual ceremonies the same way.
And there's like secret handshakes that happen between like a curtain and all kinds of
and
stuff.
You have to say, go ahead, sorry.
Also, and then they have what they call like past grips and real grips and stuff, which is all lifted right out of Freemasonry.
I thought
And
they
you
just used Betty Boop like in Jimbo's initiation.
You have to also like not anymore, but it used to be that you would promise not to reveal the secrets of the Latter-day Saints, or they would kill you. So it's like he lifted a lot of it in certain ways.
So, I'm also wondering about Benjamin Franklin and his ties to the Hellfire Club. I mean, how Masonic is it? Hellfire, originated from London.
Well, I think that the Freemasons, in my
Fraternal.
opinion, was just like the most standardized version of getting higher middle class normies into mystery schools. It was like the closest version of a mystery school. But then if you like really took the mystery school part like way more seriously than just the networking aspect and like having life in, like, because before Freemasonry and before there was life insurance companies and trade unions and guilds and stuff, Freemasonry was like the place that you would join, so that if you moved any other place in the country or the world, you kind of were like, here's my credentials. It was like your LinkedIn profile with a bunch of people saying, like, yeah, this guy's worth hiring. But I think that like as that sort of dissipated, it changed the whole landscape of it.
And also,
then like
like,
the Hellfire
again,
Club was like the drinkers and the smokers and the orgies. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and there's also, I think, like you said, there's like different kinds of people. So like different kinds of people have different like behavior at their clubs, which is even why Shriners goes about it a different way than the Scotch Rite.
Well, like in the Masons, there's like this it's like a stigma, but it's basically a lot of the lodges, you're not even allowed to drink in lodge. So over time, a lot of them got more strict about that than others, and then it was like Shriners became known as like the drinking side of the Masons.
Right.
And then it's like, if you're too wild for the Shriners, then you join the Royal Order of the Jesters, and the Royal Order of the Jesters are like the Shriners that are just like always flying out to Vegas and getting strippers and like, like that's and it's like this evolution.
And you can see it's like centric to there's the groups themselves are now around the center group. So it used to be there were people around the center person. Now there are groups around the center group. So you're adjacent. You can be in multiple groups and you can find your way into the center if that's something that you're trying to do. But a lot of people are just trying to make friends. Because, if you want to own an ice cream shop and gas station and parking lot in Ohio, being a member of a group like that would be helpful.
Right, especially if like the comptroller happens to be, in the lodge meetings and stuff
Wouldn't
like that.
be
Which
the
is
worst
very,
thing to
very
happen.
typical.
Yeah.
Thomas, I think you'll be interested. The Gravity Falls, the animated series, right?
Yeah, of course.
Gideon, the fat kid, right? He was summoning the Cipher, right? The Bill Cipher. But you should watch that clip.
Dude, I found an old cartoon.
Uncle Stan is a Shriner, right? So, but the whole thing is that Alex Hirsch, his whole family is a Shriner family. I mean, I don't know the kid, but he's from CalArts too, and that guy has some weird habits. People witnessed him when he was peeing a bottle in his office in the Cartoon Network. But
hey, dude, so did Howard Hughes, bro.
So I was gonna say, so did Howard Hughes. Thank you.
I'm not like, I'm not gonna judge. You know what? Don't make me cut this episode.
Hey,
short.
who's the judge, Howard Hughes?
Here's the crypto cubrology. I just put this link up. Just thumbing through this open. So when Johnny 53 knows, he posted this essay roughly 237,000 hours after The Shining's opening weekend.
Yeah, so that was like Johnny 53, the big, like, this long ass thing about The Shining that kind of kicked off the whole like deep analysis of The Shining.
Like, hey,
this is such a good website. I love it.
Yeah,
this is me 2010, just like going crazy.
It's still amazing. So yeah, that I looked that up and 237,000 hours roughly. I might have fudged that one timely. It might not be exact, but it's
I'll make a random plug. I'll start the plugs by saying go to the Discord, and I'm going to post a link to that directly in the Discord. And you can also check out the tweets from all these synchronologists. Yeah, I'll take it. Synchronologists.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, they'll take it. And then Synchromystics. Make sure you go to the full Crypto Cubrology Twitter page and subscribe and check out his work. He's doing a lot of interesting things, specifically right now involving like mainstream pop. So that's pretty important to like everyone you know. Next time someone's like, dude, I can't believe Angus Cloud died, bruh. You can say, yeah, 237,000 hours after Elon Musk. Yeah, this is good stuff here. I like it.
It's great.
It's an
Thanks.
icebreaker. Also, paranoidamerican.com, the greatest comic books, now chosen
That's
one,
right.
number 2 on Kickstarter.
So close. We're so close.
I'm waiting for you people. I'm sure if you're watching right now, this is a good moment to say it. If you go to paranoidamerican.com and you click on the top of the link, chosen one, number 2, for free, you click notify me. And then once it hits 100, they'll publish it. And
this feeds the algorithm. It's how you feed. And I want to shout out too, if you can check out occultdecode.com, I'll show you a little secret cheat code that nobody knows on this site yet. And this is what I was asking about the ciphers. So you can type in any word you want in the gematria calculator. So you could type in like Xirtus or space or NASA or whatever.
21
and then now
reduction.
Now if you hit enter,
111, that's good.
If you hit enter, it's not going to show you that there's anything happening except
42.
for if you give it like 10 to 15 seconds, it's searching through 500,000 records that I've pre-calculated all the different ciphers. So there we go.
Whoa.
So here's 20,000 matches based on 16 ciphers for Xirtus, and then on the right,
ABBA
list. There you go.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
That's what I needed. Good job, me. ABBA's
Well,
nice.
Thomas, you better get
I'm
some
gonna dip into
advertising.
this.
I'm working on it, man. You know,
Wait, what
Abortion ban
cipher
and
said
abortion
ABBA? Can you show me which cipher said
Above
ABBA?
the rim, Abraham Lincoln.
It said
Sorry,
English
I said-
Kabbalah.
It said English Kabbalah. Okay.
42.
Okay.
there was 2 matches actually. I think reverse reduction for ABBA too.
Yeah, reverse reduction and
Yep.
English Kabbalah. Went both
Ooh,
directions. I'm so
nice.
ABBA'd out. It's so great. I was listening to a lot of ABBA. I was in the Danish
I was
airport
too.
blasting ABBA, and Swedish people were excited, and Danish people were not. It was kind of a.
But from what I understand, I haven't seen any other gematria calculators that match this many things across this many different ciphers at the same time. Even Grammatinator, you're limited to like doing like 6 at a time or something, and it doesn't do the cross matches. So
Dude.
I hope this is helpful to someone out there. Like this isn't really my
Adam Fox.
thing, but I understand the math behind it.
I'm a fan.
This is
Adonis.
awesome.
I'm an
Thank you for making
Adonis. This is great.
Well, I'm gonna be doing a date calculator for you, Alex, and I wanted to
Oh,
like
that's amazing.
automatically do the start point, end point, midpoint, and then it can do like a cross reference of
Midpoint.
Midpoint even?
like so show me if the midpoint was
Whoa.
800 hours, then it'll be like, and here's all the gematria matches for 800.
You know what I want to do? I want to
Oh,
go on GitHub with you and
amazing.
look up. They have a wiki chart thing that you can take all this information and it makes a circle out of it. Like it makes looks like circle graphs and things like that.
D3JS, something like that.
I love those things. Those are adorable. Let's look into that. Okay, so Occult Decode, freaking amazing. ParanoidAmerican.com. Buy the comic books. Buy the comics t-shirts.
Buy everything, stickers and posters
Buy.
and
It's a
yeah,
good
buy.
day to buy.
You know,
It's a good day to buy.
Thomas, why didn't you go to Comic-Con in San Diego? Well, actually, I don't know how
You
far
mean
you're gonna have to get.
TV show and movie con?
Yeah, right.
I mean, the
some
real
friends who-
reason is because this is going to suck. But like, if you go to a comic convention as an artist, you can get an artist alley and get a table for 150, 200. But since I'm a comic publisher, I have to drop like 1,500 to $2,000 on a table, unless and if they want to play games and be like, well, technically you're not the artist of all these books and therefore you're the publisher, but then they're trying to have me go up against like the same prices that Marvel or that like Vertigo might be paying for the table.
They're not even
space.
calling you a
That's
tracer.
like-
They're like, you damn tracer.
Yeah,
You
no,
tracer."
that's one of the main reasons. It's really hard to get into the bigger, even the one here in Orlando, MegaCon. Like I would have to sell like 10,000 comics in 3 days just to break even for the costs of getting the table and the electricity
That's
and
crazy.
everything.
Let's draw something ourselves and then we can we'll be sneaky. I have a plan.
Let's
Never
do it.
say
Let's do
no
it.
and just go through the side door. Synchronous on Twitter. Make sure you follow Synchronous. Eddie's got some amazing stuff. Talking about World War III, Poland. We didn't even get into that, but look at that. That's pretty exciting.
It's
stuff
coming.
right there.
They're crossing each other's border right now. It's Poland. Poland started in German invasion of Poland. Boom,
That'll be
boom,
fun.
Early August seems like it's going to be hot.
Yeah. Also, the
Is
sync
it-
book.
Is this
go
good
to
for Bitcoin?
Yes.
Not yet. It will be.
Okay.
The videos on SyncBook, it'll take you to the SyncFlix right here, and you can watch David's synchronicities. He's got Poltergeist, E.T., Mogwai, Mr. Beast, Mogwai the Hawk is Howling together in the night skies. This
So
is new.
yeah, so there's this website. There's over 200 videos here for streaming and download, and I've been putting my movies on Twitter.
Oh,
so
sweet.
I got sold
You have
on,
not.
on Twitter
You've
Blue
been putting
over,
them
over-
on X. Don't
Yeah, on
dead
X.
name X. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm sorry, my mistake. So, but you know, I got sold on the 1080p up to 8 gigabytes that you can do. Like, I'm sorry, like that's the only thing that could have gotten me to
What you need.
pay
I'm for it.
$8 a month to fucking
Whatever
be able
it
to share
takes.
my
I'm glad
videos
you're all X'd
on
out, bro.
X.
I'm gonna wreck
So
your
what?
X's. That's gonna be great.
Yes. So yeah. So I'm stoked on that. So I'm the only David Charles plate on X. If you want to look me up there, I'm doing my best to post a video every day, and that means if I'm around my computer. Some days I have to stay downtown, but every day that I can, I'm gonna upload a video, sync film. So
That's pretty sweet. Okay, so for that purpose, make sure go to x.com, click on. I've set up so if I try to even type it, it takes me to the Twilight Zone. I won't even use the word, dude. Flip the bird. It's over. Okay, so you look up MK Ultra Sound 723.
yeah, or David Charles plate. I think either one will do it. But
Yeah, David Charles Plate. That's fair. David Charles Plate. Once you get to David Charles Plate on x.com, you can now see media right here. And it's just a slew of media now. How freaking great is that? That's going to be awesome. So, yeah. Sweet, dude. Look at this. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty excited. Oh, is this Charlotte's Web? You did the Charlotte Web Pink Floyd one? Ah, it's gonna be great. Look at this. So now Twitter's way cooler. Retweet. Okay. Did I miss anybody? We should talk about Joseph Smith's brother Alvin, who got killed right at the beginning. Who's a Freemason too.
Did you hear about his other brother Simon and Theodore? No.
No, I haven't heard about that. Let's do that next time. Love you all. Talk to you soon. Take care. Good night.